So most people were like, oh, they're students, it's a student project. It's cute. Now to think the same group are going out there, are now hiring, and they have a staff of 100 people over 3 years. It's a game changer.
It's all about trying to harness the brilliance of young people who have been bitten by the entrepreneurial bug.
The experience here with MTME was outstanding. It outshined my undergraduate degree by far.
It meant so much to me because I had people who surrounded me who wanted to see me do well.
One of the things that really stood out for me during my tenure as chair was the quality of students that were attracted to the TME program. And I think the fact that it was an optional program that students could opt into really meant that we had highly motivated students who had a keen interest in what this program could offer.
It's not what I expected when I got here. You know, I thought it would be just like a typical master's program, but it was so much more than that.
I think that TME is an absolute jewel. Academically and intellectually, working at the interface between disciplines is so terribly important. The way it reaches out to the community, I've often thought of UNB as a sort of a postmodern land-grant university, very much committed to the public good, and TME just represents that so strongly.
Highly successful people from the community that have come in and given their time and energy to act as mentors, be part of our society, be part of the community. That has grown and grown, and it will constantly keep growing.
It really helped me grow as a person more than just educating me. From start to finish, it's a whirlwind to think that where I started off and in my coming into the program and now leaving it, the person I was then is absolutely not the person I am now, and it's amazing to think that TME helped me on that journey.
What really matters is what you become. You become much more, you gain leadership skills, you also become equipped in management, and it's really beautiful because if you ask me to explain how it is, it's like the metamorphosis of a larva into a butterfly.
We began to realize we were celebrating a lot of people in the startup industry. And then as we engaged with students, we realized most of our students are not doing startups. They're making change in the corporate world, in the social context, and government. So startup is one element of our story. Helping corporations is the second element, government, society. But our central focus is making individuals and bringing the best out of them. And if you focus on the individual founders, entrepreneurs, students, and help them become the best versions of themselves and become a vital part of our society and moving society forward, you can never lose that game. You will always win.
That our team is full-time committed to this project.
We're waiting for Google to release something for the tablets.
Thank you for the question.
You're probably going to need a sample more often, but if you're looking at solids, you could maybe last five years or so.
Live television broadcast, but it is an immersive way.
Basic cost of doing nothing was about $15 billion to the Canadian economy. So,
well, I do remember the beginnings of TME, and very much evolved on the watch of my predecessor as president, Elizabeth Parr Johnson, and she and her husband played a very major role in getting it off the ground. And I had lots of conversations with Alan McLean, the founding director, and his vision and his sense of purpose was very special. And in fact, it's been interesting to watch over the last 30 years through Alan and then Barry and Linda, and now especially on Narendra's watch, just how this little jewel of an academic research and teaching center has evolved and strengthened and deepened, but always with that sense of purpose that was there from the beginning. It's been marvelous to watch.
A lot of growth over the last 30 years, but it all started with such a progressive individual that 30 years ago had that vision even before most of North American engineering schools did, that engineering and entrepreneurship, as well as technology management knowledge, go together from the very beginning.
TME has evolved over the last 30 years from a vision to a program that now has deep connections, deep roots out into the community.
It really has to do with the very important role that this university has to play in creating value in New Brunswick, in our economy and for our society. And certainly the TME program has grown to become, I think, a significant engine of economic growth.
TME is a wonderful institution. It's arrived at a very special place on the journey, but it still needs lots of support. And I guess this evening we're going to be asking for lots more support.
Future of TME is very bright because of our central focus on the individuals, central focus on who are you, what do you want to do, how can we help you get there, is going to be the new future of TME. While we focus on academic programming, research programs that have all evolved, then we focus on startup, building the right ecosystem to develop and launch enterprises, develop and launch platforms for society, government and corporations to engage and work with us in a collaborative manner. So the future is going to be more depth, more integration, more collaboration nationally, regionally and internationally. In a way, it feels like we're just getting started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RBC Leadership Conference, The Future of Innovation Disrupted 2.2. I do want to make a few quick housekeeping notes before we get started today. You will notice that a few of our speakers are joining us today wearing their 3-layer non-surgical masks. That is because a few of us have gathered. There's 5 of us in the room. We are all distanced, and we are abiding by all of the New Brunswick public health and safety guidelines. So before the conference gets started today, we do have a very exciting announcement, and I would like to pass the floor over to Dr. Dhirendra Shukla.
Thank you, Rachel. I'd like to welcome everyone today to that's joining us virtually. And it's saddened that again this year we're disrupted in our gathering. As a result, we have to go virtual. That being said, it's important that we recognize all the frontline workers for all their efforts and dedication through the pandemic and what they've been able to do for us to keep us safe and healthy. I'm very excited today, particularly to recognize all the students that have been involved and been able to collaborate and cooperate with us as we go through these stressful times. Despite these challenges, it's very, very special to recognize 2 UNESCO co-chairs that will be based at the Dr. J. Herbert Smith Center at the University of New Brunswick. The J. Herbert Smith Center started 34 years back as a diploma program, and since its inception has grown to having over 700 students committed to the program, has accelerator programs and innovation programs and entrepreneurial programs that is creating a buzz and excitement in our community. As a result, we have helped launch over 170 ventures out of the J. Herbert Smith Center. The J. Herbert Smith Center at the core focuses on the people and the community. And while we celebrate all the startups coming out, our focus is to work hand in hand with the community and the people to move the world into a better place. Like I said, we've been around since 1988, and we were ahead of the curve as one of the first entrepreneurial programs to be based in the engineering faculty. Now we continue to be ahead of the curve by partnering with amazing institutions like UNESCO to move the community and conversation to the next level. The conversation focused around the future of literacy. Very excited to welcome our UNESCO co-chairs of anticipatory systems for innovation and value creation. Dominic Blakely has been with the J. Herbert Smith Center for the last 7 years, and his leadership and his ability to work with students and community has had a huge impact, not only at the university level, at a student level, but at a community and a global and international level. Most people might not know this. The second co-chair, Dr. Jonathan Kaloff, who's adjunct in the Faculty of Engineering and has been a core part of our accelerator program, our student program, was also my prof when I was studying at the University of Ottawa. As you can see, I'm very, very comfortable with just saying University of New Brunswick for everything. So this is a pivotal moment for the Dr. J. Herbert Smith Center, a pivotal moment for the University of New Brunswick as we engage UNESCO and the community at UNESCO to look at the future and collaborate with a global entity and build out our impact into the next hemisphere. And there are no better people to lead this conversation than Dr. Jonathan Kalof and Dominic Blakely. At this point, I would like to invite Dean of Engineering, Dr. Chris Diddick, to join us.
Well, thank you, Dhirendra. I'm especially pleased to be here as Dean of the Faculty of Engineering. On behalf of the faculty and the J. Herbert Smith Center, I want to extend a warm welcome. It is an honor for me to be here and to be part of the announcement for the UNESCO co-chairs. Today marks the start of a new winter term here at UNB, but a start that has seen us move back to classes that are delivered online. We were all quite excited in September to welcome students to in-person learning and to see the campus burst into life. We are indeed a resilient community, and I know we will soon be able to do this again. That being said, today is a very exciting day. The J. Herbert Smith Center has been at the forefront of innovation and value creation since its founding in 1988. And this is marked by today's announcement of the 2 new UNESCO co-chairs in anticipatory systems. The RBC Leadership Conference on the Future of Innovation follows today's announcement. The pillars of the conference align with the pursuits of the co-chairs and the J. Herbert Smith Center and our aspirations for diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion within engineering is a topic that is very close to my heart, one I remain committed to as we work to build a better future. As Dean, I'm very proud of our UNESCO co-chairs in anticipatory systems, and I'm very pleased that the faculty is home to these truly global leaders. Congratulations to Jonathan and Dominic. You are amazing representatives of what the J. Herbert Smith Center is at its core. And you are a testament to the strong entrepreneurial and innovative thread woven into UNB engineering. Thank you. I'll now invite UNB President, Dr. Paul Mazerow, to the podium.
Thank you, Chris, and I hope everybody can hear me. Welcome. This is a really exciting time for UNB, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joining this virtual event from the other part of the world in Brisbane, Australia. I want to take a moment to extend a very warm welcome for everyone who was able to join us here from near and far, and particularly want to acknowledge Riel and Jonathan, Dominic, Dhirendra, Chris. I'm really happy that we can all connect and find a time to be part of this incredible achievement and this announcement. Before continuing, though, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and recognize that our university, University of New Brunswick, sits on traditional Wolastoqey territory, and that the river that runs through the province, the St. John River, is also known as Wolastoq, along which live the Wolastoqey, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. Look, this is a really exciting day at UNB for a lot of reasons, for our province, our city, our university, and beyond. It's not every day we have a chance to talk about entrepreneurship and these exciting announcements in anticipatory systems around entrepreneurship with the UNESCO co-chairs. So at University of New Brunswick, we are deeply committed to innovation and entrepreneurship. It's indeed part of our DNA. It's a key part of our cultural fabric, and it's a core of what we do at the university across many different faculties. Every single day, members of the UNB community are forging new paths of discovery and innovation, entrepreneurship, looking for new opportunities and better ways to make the world more innovative and more impactful. This is in part the reason why UNB was named the most entrepreneurial university in by Startup Canada back in 2014. And this award has not been given to any other university since then. We certainly are proud of that, but also we're not looking backwards, we're looking forwards. part of our success, a great part of our success in entrepreneurship and in nurturing entrepreneurship is not new, and indeed has been part of what's defined UNB for the last 235 years since we opened our doors. We have many different research centers, institutes, people working in the space of entrepreneurship and innovation. And indeed, this is an area that flows through our institution. But I do want to take a moment to recognize the special work of the J. Herbert Smith Center. Its programming over the years have been extraordinary. Obviously, the leadership of Dhirendra Shukla and the work of Dominic Blakely and all the academics and the students have been extraordinary over many, many years. I believe there's been 175 businesses in the past 8 years alone that have sprung from the J. Herbert Smith Center. These are extraordinary achievements, colleagues. The UNESCO co-chairs are keeping with this tradition and this thrust of engaging newcomers, opportunities in entrepreneurship, and also helping to foster social innovation, startups, and female entrepreneurship. We're really excited about this opportunity. And I do want to also congratulate our UNESCO co-chairs, Dom and Jonathan, in the Anticipatory Systems for Innovation and Venture Creation. This is a unique opportunity for our university and our region. And Dominic and Jonathan are really well placed to be working on this and researching, learning, conducting community engagement with an opportunity to explore opportunities for the community, for people, for students into the future. So I really look forward to the co-chairs, the UNESCO co-chairs, building off UNB's foundational work in technology management and community collaborations to help drive that continuous culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. They will do a terrific job. Not only will this be really impactful for the center, the J. Herbert Smith Center and UNB, but this has implications for our region, our country, and indeed globally. This opportunity is one that we're really excited about. We're heavily going to support it. And I just want to end by sending my congratulations to Jonathan and Dominic on this extraordinary achievement. And I'm excited to follow your work into the months and years ahead. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Masro, and it's awesome that you could join us given the situation we are under, and really, really appreciate your confidence and all the things, amazing things that you've said about the center and the two co-chairs. Next thing, we're very excited to introduce Ryan Miller, who is here from UNESCO, and it just simply exemplifies what this two partnership is all about and the faith and confidence UNESCO has in this partnership. Thank you, Ryan.
We're good? 1, 2. Hello, everybody. It really is an immense pleasure to be here with you. I feel very honored, and I want to thank Paul and Chris and Dhirendra, Dominic, and Jonathan. You've made this a really splendid collaboration as we have done what I think walking the talk really means, which is co-creating, working together to define what it means to talk about innovation and disruption, global collaboration, and connecting it all to the conditions of the current world. In other words, recognizing that around us in the world today, there are many things happening, phenomenon that we all kind of jostle up against, that we kind of detect in the periphery of our vision, that we intuit when we feel a gap or an emptiness in what we know or in the words that we have to describe the world and in the way that we feel about the world around us. In other words, As always, a complex emergent world is changing in ways which oblige humans to invent new words, new ideas, to let go of certain ideas, to understand that forgetting is also sometimes as important as inventing, and that we must continuously question the relationship between continuity and discontinuity. And this chair and the work of the Global Futures Literacy Network that the chairs contribute to are an essential part of what you might consider the global collective condition. We're at a moment historically when the collective conditions are changing in ways that are very visible. This mask is an obvious marker. Think now, 20, 30 years from now, if somebody looks at this video or looks at a photo, they'll say, that was the time. That's when they were dealing with COVID. And they will know, in the same way that we know from previous historical markers, that that was a moment of, let's say, a war or a victory. And we mark those times. And we understand that they have specific characteristics. But in retrospect, we attach all sorts of meaning. But as we are living it, how do we make sense of it? As we're in the thick of it, how do we give it substance and also find ways of coping with the emotions, the fears, the hopes, the sense of disruption that accompanies discontinuity? And here, I want to make the case, and I think that this chair is a beautiful example of the response. And let me say it in a way that might seem curious at first. We just don't know. We're experimenting. We're being called upon to try stuff, to do things, to see if they work. And if we're frightened by the fact that they might fail because they don't correspond to things that have succeeded in the past, then our experiments will be truncated. Our experiments will be timid, part of a reform of existing things that we already know. So I think and feel the commitment to actually going beyond that limitation, to taking on the question here of what it means to try and think of better futures. And I'll just take a moment to talk about this issue. The human pursuit of a better future has, I think, been conducted in a way that's fundamentally flawed and dangerous. Because we've taken the meaning of better to be, how do we improve on what we know? How do we achieve a particular objective on the basis that it already is something we can articulate and formulate? As a result, we've been deeply biased. We've been biased towards using the past to create the future. We've been biased towards choosing different ways forward that we believe will be successful, and investing often heavily in those options, which creates path dependency. In other words, we have continuously separated human endeavor from the mystery, the improvisation, the emergence of the unknown and unknowable, on the grounds that we're trying to achieve a better future. And it is deeply powerful because it defines even who we are. I'm somebody who fights for a better future. Why aren't you motivated to fight for a better future? You should be really giving all you can to create a better future. And yet this conception of a better future, I think, is killing us. It has distanced us from the way in which our universe actually functions, because it has cast us in a role of control, of colonization of tomorrow, meaning we try to impose upon future people what we think is best, instead of taking a very different approach, which is to say, how can we simply be as light and as open so the future generations will make their own choices and be able to create their own world on the basis that we have confidence that they will be able to do so. Not because we've been so prescient or intelligent, which is impossible in a world that is characterized, in a universe that is characterized by uncertainty, fundamental uncertainty. I can't tell you what it's like to understand human agency, innovation, invention, creativity in a world that is not based on, I can create a better future by creating it. Managing uncertainty, which is to me a contradiction in terms. You don't manage uncertainty. You may manage certain aspects of preparation and perception. You may manage the confidence that allows you to be improvisational and spontaneous. But this is a vastly different positioning of the relationship of humanity to the planet in a context of climate extinction, of a relationship to humanity to viruses, which have always been around us. And yet we pretend that we can power, we can dominate, we can control, that we can be different, superior to the natural world around us, and somehow not bake in, day by day, decision by decision, the fragility that we see today in front of us with COVID-19. So I am really grateful to have been able to work with the team here at UNB to put together a series of opportunities for us to explore, to experiment, to invent, to take risks that are not just the calculated risks, but also the choice to go beyond risk and to embrace the openness of uncertainty, improvisation, and failure that we learn from through experimentation, but the new words and the new ways of doing things that also emerge from this experimentation. I am tremendously hopeful, and in that sense, not abandoning the idea of better from the perspective of being able to live according to my values and according to our aspirations, but not better in terms of imposing or knowing or controlling the world around me. And in that context, I think we can all work together to experiment, to find new ways of making that work, and really move beyond what has essentially been the only way for us to organize the world around us, which has been hierarchically, and to move towards an understanding that crucial aspects of the world around us, such as well-being or happiness, are not hierarchical phenomena. And that if we can't integrate into the way we think about the world around us, uncertainty and non-hierarchical elements that are so central to meaning and to being, then we are really failing ourselves. And in that sense, also future generations. If we can create the gift of being good compost, of being a light transmission to the future, where we have expressed our values by the way we live and set an example, which may or may not be taken up, then I think we will have really achieved the objectives that have been articulated already by the leadership here at the University of New Brunswick and the team that's working on the UNESCO chair, and indeed the UNESCO chairs around the world that are part of the Future Studies, Futures Literacy Global Network. So I thank you very much for this opportunity. I really look forward to working with all of you and believe that we have many things that will be wonderful and exciting, enjoyable, fun, and creative to do together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Riel. I'm Dominic Blakely, and we have, as you can see on the screen, Dr. Jonathan Kaloff joining us here. As one of the co-chairs, I want to thank Riel on a number of occasions. Jonathan introduced me to Riel and suggested I go to Paris a couple of years ago to start diving into this world that we do called Futures Literacy. And I met Riel for the first time at a UNESCO conference in December of 2019. The fact that during COVID and a global pandemic, you've been able to come and join us here means a great deal. Thank you very much for coming back to Canada and joining us. But I just wanted to say on behalf of my co-chair, and Jonathan is definitely going to chime in here shortly, thank you very much for having the confidence in us to be able to do it. I'm excited. The work that we've done at the J. Herbert Smith Center, looking at a global impact and developing systems where people can see that the future is critical to today, it is something that we need to do, where we're going to be working with new Canadians, as well as people who are immigrants and female founders, and developing systems to work in micro-entrepreneurship programs. It's terribly exciting. And I truly look forward to the papers that we're going to be able to write, and the workshops we'll be able to put on in the Futures Literacy Labs. I just want to say thank you so much for coming, and I'll just turn it over to Jonathan to say a few words as well.
Thank you to both of you, really.
Yeah, a few words. A few words is absolutely it. And Riel, I want you to stay in camera here for a sec as you went down. This is, for me, this is extraordinary. And it's a continuation of a legacy started by Riel's father and my father, who so many years ago fought so bravely for the future of Canada as senior bureaucrats. And you'll hear more about that as time goes on. So this is a friendship and a history designed to better Canada. Dominic, a dear, dear, dear friend, all of us working together to build a better Canada. Riel, congratulations on putting together a global network of arguably the top foresight experts in the world. We are honored that you chose to include us in this incredible network. Number two, and for those watching, and I got to tell you, the reaction of the other network members, the other UNESCO chairs, to what we have proposed at UNB has also been extraordinary. We are a chair of impact. Yes, we're going to do research, but we are a chair of impact, and many of them have now approached us and said, can you work with us in our international chairs to become more impactful? And that is a credit, and Paul said it in his talk, to UNB and their history of entrepreneurism. There's a reason why they got that award as the most entrepreneurial university in Canada. So I am very grateful for the university's support. Riel, for your support for this. Dominic, your support and your friendship as we move forward in trying to utilize the chair to make disadvantaged groups economically better.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thanks a lot.
I'll now ask Dr. Dhirendra Shukla to come back to the podium, please.
Yeah, if I could be there, I think, Riel, you, me, and Dom would be hugging each other right now.
But from a safe distance.
I've got the whiskey in the background here in the golf club when we get together.
Congratulations to both Dominic and Jonathan. And at this point, I want to also mention that we are very, very pleased that Dr. Riel Miller will be joining the center as a fellow. And this partnership is going to continue and deepen and deepen. And like what Rial said when he was speaking here, it creates, we now set up a beacon for collaboration and moving the conversation of collaboration and a brighter future for Canada. Isn't that phenomenal in terms of a vision for the University of New Brunswick, while we are looking at how we can act and help the community in New Brunswick and Atlantic Canada, but now setting up a beacon for Canada for a place we can set it up such that we now help lead Canada, and the Canadian future is absolutely heartwarming and very exciting. So, you know, just to see that the role that Jonathan talked about in terms of his family and his work and his contribution, along with what Dominic is planning to do and already has done in partnership with Rial in terms of bringing that sense of community and the people that he is networked with to our fold. And now we can now ideate and begin to build out what the new future of Canada looks like. We've already started that conversation, already started having that dialogue. And this is very, very exciting opportunity for us. Thank you very much. And very, very excited for Rial to be joining the center. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. We are going to be taking a quick break, and join us back at 1:45 for the start of the RBC Leadership Conference, The Future of Innovation Disrupted 2.2. Thank you.
Oh, Summer Institute is being wonderful. It's been part of our journey for the past 2-3 months.
As a solopreneur, it's been, challenging to do a lot by myself for a lot of years. So having a big network to draw on for inspiration and information has been really, really great.
The thing I'm taking away from this experience the most are some of the amazing connections and entrepreneurs that I've met, and the really incredible support that I've had to grow my business and grow myself in ways that I never even knew were possible.
And the Summer Institute helped me to find the courage to stand up and talk in front of a camera. It's something that I could never do before. And the warmth, the community of the family has been something that I will carry forward with me through the rest of my life.
As an entrepreneur, I felt very alone in the world of going out, bringing this idea. And when I joined Summer Institute, I felt like I had family.
And being part of Summer Institute definitely changed my life.
Fun, scary, traumatic at times, exciting. The Summer Institute is crazy, but it's so awesome. It really pushes you to your limit to really make sure that your business is successful.
The Summer Institute, oh my God. The Summer Institute is elation, terror, oh my God, Fridays, friendship, people that I will never, ever, ever forget, who will always be friends. And I see the future. I didn't see that before.
Unlike anything else I've ever done before. If you're starting a business, definitely apply, because it's an experience.
East Coast? They said, no one goes East Coast. It seems like my entire journey, being born in India, growing up in Zambia and Central Africa, being educated in England, moving to Canada, seems like This journey has been so that I can be here and be part of a community. It's been a very exciting journey because you're meeting all these students that are so excited to learn, to do something exciting, and they're looking for people to help them. They're hungry to move things forward. And being part of that is very special. So if you're looking for a place where you can find yourself, find genuine people, sense of belonging, sense of community, and pure beauty, you need to come to New Brunswick. I'm Dr. Dhirendra Shukla, Professor and Chair at the University of New Brunswick, and I'm NB proud. So most people were like, oh, they're students, it's a studenty project. It's cute. Now to think the same group are going out there, are now hiring, and they have a staff of 100 people over 3 years. It's a game changer.
It's all about trying to harness the brilliance of young people who have been bitten by the entrepreneurial bug.
The experience here with MTME was outstanding. It outshined my undergraduate degree by far.
It meant so much to me because I had people who surrounded me who wanted to see me do well.
One of the things that really stood out for me during my tenure as chair was the quality of students that were attracted to the TME program. And I think the fact that it was an optional program that students could opt into really meant that we had highly motivated students who had a keen interest in what this program could offer.
It's not what I expected when I got here. You know, I thought it would be just like a typical master's program, but it was so much more than that.
I think that TME is an absolute jewel. Academically and intellectually, working at the interface between disciplines is so terribly important. The way it reaches out to the community. I've often thought of UNB as a sort of a postmodern land-grant university, very much committed to the public good, and TME just represents that so strongly.
Highly successful people from the community that have come in and given their time and energy to act as mentors, to be part of our society, be part of the community. That has grown and grown, and it will constantly keep growing.
It really helped me grow as a person more than just educating me. From start to finish, it's a whirlwind to think that where I started off and in my coming into the program and now leaving it, the person I was then is absolutely not the person I am now. And it's amazing to think that TME helped me on that journey.
What really matters is what you become. You become much more, you gain leadership skills, you also become equipped in management, and it's really beautiful because if you ask me to explain how it is, it's like the metamorphosis of a larva into a butterfly.
We began to realize we were celebrating a lot of people in the startup industry. And then as we engaged with students, we realized most of our students are not doing startups. They're making change in the corporate world, in the social context, and government. So startup is one element of our story. Helping corporations is the second element, government, society. But our central focus is making individuals and bringing the best out of them. And if you focus on the individual founders, entrepreneurs, students, and help them become the best versions of themselves and become a vital part of our society and moving society forward, you can never lose that game. You will always win.
That our team is full-time committed to this project.
We're waiting for Google to release something for the tablets.
Thank you for the question.
You're probably going to need a sample more often, but if you're looking at solids, you could maybe last five years or so.
Live television broadcast but it is an immersive way.
Basic cost of doing nothing was about $15 billion to the Canadian economy. So,
Well, I do remember the beginnings of TME, and very much evolved on the watch of my predecessor as president, Elizabeth Parr Johnson, and she and her husband played a very major role in getting it off the ground. And I had lots of conversations with Alan McLean, the founding director, and his vision and his sense of purpose was very special. And in fact, it's been interesting to watch over the last 30 years through Alan and then Barry and Linda, and now especially on Narendra's watch, just how this little jewel of an academic research and teaching center has evolved and strengthened and deepened, but always with that sense of purpose that was there from the beginning. It's been marvelous to watch.
A lot of growth over the last 30 years, but it all started with such a progressive individual that 30 years ago had that vision even before most of North American engineering schools did, that engineering and entrepreneurship as well as technology management knowledge go together from the very beginning.
TME has evolved over the last 30 years from a vision to a program that now has deep connections, deep roots out into the community.
It really has to do with the very important role that this university has to play in creating value in New Brunswick, in our economy and for our society. And certainly the TME program has grown to become, I think, a significant engine of economic growth.
TME is a wonderful institution. It's arrived at a very special place on the journey, but it still needs lots of support. And I guess this evening we're going to be asking for lots more support.
Future of TME is very bright because of our central focus on the individuals, central focus on who are you, what do you want to do, how can we help you get there, is going to be the new future of TME. While we focus on academic programming, research programs that have all evolved, then we focus on startup, building the right ecosystem to develop and launch enterprises, develop and launch platforms for society, government, and corporations to engage and work with us in a collaborative manner. So the future is going to be more depth, more integration, more collaboration, nationally, regionally, and internationally. In a way, it feels like we're just getting started.
Oh, Summer Institute is being wonderful. It's been part of our journey for the past 2-3 months.
As a solopreneur, it's been, challenging to do a lot by myself for a lot of years. So having a big network to draw on for inspiration and information has been really, really great.
The thing I'm taking away from this experience the most are some of the amazing connections and entrepreneurs that I've met, and the really incredible support that I've had to grow my business and grow myself in ways that I never even knew were possible.
And the Summer Institute helped me to find the courage to stand up and talk in front of a camera. It's something that I could never do before. And the warmth, the community of the family has been something that I will carry forward with me through the rest of my life.
As an entrepreneur, I felt very alone in the world going out bringing this idea. And when I joined Summer Institute, I felt like I had family.
And being part of Summer Institute definitely changed my life.
Fun, scary, traumatic at times, exciting. The Summer Institute is crazy, but it's so awesome. It really pushes you to your limit to really make sure that your business is successful.
The Summer Institute, oh my God. The Summer Institute is elation, terror, oh my God, Fridays, friendship, people that I will never, ever, ever forget, who will always be friends, and I see the future. I didn't see that before.
Unlike anything else I've ever done before. If you're starting a business, definitely apply because it's an experience.
So welcome back. Thank you very much. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, my friend.
So welcome to the Future of Innovation Disrupted 2.2. This is the second disruption of the same disruption. We're very fortunate this afternoon this morning to have two panels that are going to be discussing this. We've got a few slides here. So Jonathan and I just wanted to take an opportunity to talk just very briefly about what came out of the announcement and really what it is that we are. So again, it's a long title, but the formal title is the UNESCO Chair in Anticipatory Systems for Innovation and Venture Creation. Under the umbrella of the UNITWIN chairs at UNESCO, the network of chairs, and under Rael's leadership in futures literacy and foresight. So go ahead, Jonathan, if you want to just talk about what our UMB approach is going to be.
Sure, and I'm going to talk about it just for a minute or two with some examples as well. When we talk about a chair of impact, the idea conceptually is we want to make a difference in the practice of management by specific targeted groups that we'll mention in a second. And to give you an example of that, we are, and Dominic, you'll have more information on this. We're releasing a book that will be available for free that looks at anticipatory thinking around events so that others will benefit from the research and the practice that we've had. So make no mistake about it, this is about practice. Application oriented, yes, the research is there, and we're in the midst of several research programs right now on how to get better anticipatory capabilities, but also extensive training, not just in New Brunswick, not just throughout Atlantic Canada, but in any region where the targeted disadvantaged groups reside. And to that end, we've got 20 plus partnerships established already around the world to roll out the material that we're creating. The focus being on innovation and venture creation is consistent with what the J. Herbert Smith Center has been doing for years and years and years. And in fact, we've been going to be integrating the anticipatory approach and training into their entrepreneurship programs, into their Summer Institute, the Energia, the TME, the MTME. All their programs are going to see elements of this. And just to be very clear, when we're talking about anticipatory capability, one aspect, as you heard from Rael, is creating the future that you want. That's very critical to what we're going to be doing. But the other one is helping the entrepreneurs understand the impact of that future and that environment on them. So we're going to try to get them to look further out through scenarios. We're going to have them look deeper through profiles, better understand customers, better understand the markets, and the impact of those on the strategy they're trying to execute on. Dominic, why don't you talk a bit about the targeted geographic areas? Because I think this is very important in terms of setting what we're trying to do.
Thanks, Jonathan. So, I mean, we are located here in Fredericton in New Brunswick, which is where the chair is housed in the J. Herbert Smith Center. So we're looking at more marginalized and economically disadvantaged areas, but geographically here in Atlantic Canada, where we will start and where we are set up. But we're also looking into Africa, and specifically also for us in India as well. And in fact, actually, we have a program going on right now with one of our partners. It's called Global Technology Solutions, and ourselves and the Manipal Academy of Higher Education are working with students from both the Fredericton campus of UMB and Manipal University in Karnataka State in India. And they're coming together based upon 5 various verticals to take a look at of the UNESCO SDGs, the UN SDGs, pardon me, to look at solutions which are going to impact change. So we're putting in these anticipatory systems that we're all doing. So this is an interesting premise, is the fact that this is actually already taking place, and we're working with this group right now. So those are our 3 critical areas: Africa, India, and Atlantic Canada. So we are looking at some specific objectives, and as Jonathan already said, developing research, teaching material, and programs that will work with those groups that we just discussed to develop those anticipatory skills and that knowledge in a collective sense. This isn't going to be an independent somebody going to be owning this knowledge. This is going to be getting together as groups and being able to build almost that cooperative approach, especially in the micro-entrepreneurial system in very rural communities.
And I might add to that one is that, you know, when you hear that Rial Miller is going to be working with us in a UNB capacity, that tells you a little bit about that collective approach for developing materials to utilize within the program. And we can't name other names, but we've had other, what can I call them, bright lights in the foresight field say, we'd like to work with you on developing other training material that can be rolled out. So this is going to end up being a very global group to develop materials for this specific group. And there'll be a lot of announcements coming in future months.
So that sort of highlights point 1 and 2. The third one is a critical piece that I think we need to do, and actually it speaks to sort of it's sort of a segue into the conference. Item number 3 is identifying, encouraging, coaching, and mentoring female founders. It is a critical aspect. Oh, Rial wants to jump up here. Perfect. He's just going to grab another microphone.
Yeah, I just thought I'd chime in with on. Let's see if
you
I'm
need to
on
get.
the
There you go.
screen.
Yeah, you're there.
Okay. Why don't you come back in? Just to say that one of the crucial aspects of the work that we're doing globally has to do with the way in which people source their images of the future. Where does your idea come from? Where does your hope come from? Where do your fears come from? How are those created? Who are the powers that be that kind of put that on the agenda? And by exploring that, I want to just draw attention to something that was raised earlier, which is that around the world, indigenous communities are in an absolutely amazing position to share really very different ways of understanding the power of the human imagination. The future doesn't exist. There's no data. It's not something you can go and touch. And so the question of where the images come from, how people source their imagination, what they use their imagination for here in New Brunswick or in India, as you were saying, but also using the richness and the history of diverse communities is really a critical part, I think, of what this is all about. And so I just wanted to chime in on that point, which I think is so crucial.
But Rial, what I like about what you're saying, and it ties back into what we're doing here, is there's a richness of groups for us to pull into this initiative to be able to create that. And you are correct. The Aboriginal community has been extraordinary in envisioning exercise. So too has been the entertainment industry. And I've already started talking to producers and directors in California about the visioning they do as they seek to create the future. So that's why we start talking about the expansion of this initiative to include other groups. And Rial, again, you bring so much to the table. There are so many members of your network that will be invaluable to helping to develop the material for impact, as opposed to other research, other chairs that are totally focused on research. Very important to do that, very important, but they don't need the same diversity of input that we need for what we're trying to do.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jonathan Riel. And finally, the last point on the specific objectives, and it actually, again, fits well with this too, is the premise of settlement of entrepreneurially-minded newcomers, but also working with the diasporic populations globally to be able to bring the visioning exercises that they participate in to help develop future knowledge, and working in that, and the help of using those systems that we're developing, those anticipatory systems, to help in the creation of rural new ventures. And so those two last points are put there for a reason, because this actually is a segue directly into our panels. So as mentioned previously, 51% innovators, women leading change. And this will be the first panel that we're going to be having, which is going to be moderated by Estelle Doiron. Women make up more than 51% of the population of our planet. However, their numbers are really disproportionate, and we'll get into a couple of stats here shortly, are really low in terms of the number of founders in new venture creation. And then talking about impact from home, the areas that Jonathan and I will be working at as our UNESCO chairs, and where we live is very rural. Yeah. I mean, we talk about Fredericton being a city, but we're this big, and you know, we are small. Rural now with COVID, people are staying home. But what is that impact? And can you actually do it from home if you are in a rural community? So we'll just look at a couple of stats here. So this is one of those backhanded statistics that you can find, and this comes from Statista. Percentage of startups with at least one female founder has grown by 6% from 2017 to 2020. But it's still terrible at 28%. We need to be able to work with female founders, to be able to build confidence, to be able to allow them to be able to express and be able to build up, so that we can show that they can do it. And Jonathan, jump in here on the next couple of stats.
But actually, I want to take them beyond the stats, and we'll go into it in a minute. Is that and you're going to remember this, we've had several summer institutes of female entrepreneurs only. We have had, and I've been doing a program throughout Atlantic Canada with, that ACOA has sponsored. And again, a lot of women entrepreneurs looking at establishing networks as well. So I've seen it in the Atlantic Canada context. At the same time, and you mentioned about Estelle, you're about to hear from an extraordinarily successful graduate from the programs that basically, and Dominic, I'd say has national credibility in terms of what you're doing. One of the more impressive entrepreneurs I've seen. So that, you know, I mean, we can look at stats like the amount of revenue that's being delivered, and even in terms of, 51% of innovators are women. We see it, we know it, but why has it not been integrated into the program? And when we announced that we were doing this, you got to ask yourself, why did women's groups jump up and say, we want to be part of this? Please help us train our members, because there's a recognition that this group requires, wants, desires training, knowledge, and understanding in these areas. So again, you can see the stats on the page. I'm trying to take you even deeper than that, thanks to the experience that we have through UNB.
Yes. So I mean, when we take a look at this, second statistic is just that women-run businesses do deliver higher revenues, as found by the Boston Consulting Group. And firms with more women in senior positions are more profitable, more socially responsible, and provide safer, higher quality customer experiences. it doesn't really translate up to that first step where it actually only shows that 28% of the participants are women. How do we get more in there? So that first panel we're going to have, Estelle is going to be joined by Jesse Wang, Amy Andrews, and Olga Polishenko, and they're going to be discussing that. So the second panel we're going to have, it's going to be talking about impact from home and starting from a rural setting. And these are just very quick stats, but there does show that there's a case that can be made for doing this at home in rural communities. But the problem is actually that second little piece there, and everybody can read the slides themselves, but is that there are challenges to be able to do this. So the question is how can we come together to be able to build systems to be able to hit those main challenges, which are access to capital, which we experience here in Atlantic Canada, access to workforce, smaller populations, therefore not as many experts, and as well, and a critical piece right now, especially during the pandemic, as we're streaming this live globally, access to connectivity and an ability to be able to be online and to be able to do this. And we're talking about students going back to school and being online. What is that level of connectivity? So those are three critical pieces. And Joe Allen will be the head of this panel that we'll be having after Jana Giles comes and tells us her story.
And I'm going to add to that one is that if there's never been a better time to be looking at impact from home, starting from a rural setting. And let's start off with Atlantic Canada in New Brunswick in terms of the power of those businesses, what they could be. Number two, open innovation, which is now the dominant form of innovation globally. And that means that you can have a rural setting doing R&D, doing value chain specialization, teaming up with larger companies around the world. That's the model. That's what's going on right now. How do we make it happen in a New Brunswick and beyond setting? That becomes rather critical. And number three, and Dominic, I go back to some of the initiatives we've had under Summer Institute and Energia and MTME, where some of the African participants have been saying, because of COVID, companies are looking no longer for global value chains, but local value chains. And the opportunity now to create in a rural setting supply. All right, well, access to capital, access to workforce, connectivity, but also anticipatory capability. Who do we have to talk to? How do we create this capability? And this is one of the reasons that we have some of the partnerships we do. We had a UNESCO conference December 2021, and Dominic and I emceed a panel of our partners. And basically we said, is it because you're in a rural setting that is hammering your ability to be globally competitive? And they all said no. Our location is not our problem. Our problem is access to network, capital, et cetera. So we really had a good one on this one at the right time.
So thank you so much, Jonathan. And I think our job is done now. It's actually my great privilege to be able to welcome to the stage Estelle Doiron, who is the founder of Coffee, a CEO and founder of Coffee Beauty, and starting her company. Hi, Estelle.
Hey.
And she will be facilitating this panel. So I will step away from the stage and turn it all over to Estelle.
Thanks, Dominic. It's always a pleasure to be here and to virtually see all my intelligent friends like you and Jonathan. It's always a pleasure. And now I would like you guys to help me welcome to the stage Jesse Wang, Amy Andrews, and Olga Polishenko. Hi, friends. I'd like to ask you guys to take a minute and introduce yourselves.
All right, I can start if you'd like.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Andrews, and I am a co-founder and the CEO of LifeTrack Safety Systems Limited. We're developing a personal safety mobile application that will allow users to report incidents and share them publicly, plan their outings, and build their safety network. So we're basically trying to make safety more accessible to everyone.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessie Wong. My pronouns are she and her, and I currently live in Detroit, but before that was living in Toronto. I am the Director of Activator Growth at SheEO, and we are a global community and an ecosystem designed to support, fund, and celebrate women and non-binary entrepreneurs who are creating a better world through their businesses and through their innovations. Excited to be with you all today.
Thanks.
All right, hello everybody. I'm also very excited and very happy I was asked to be part of this, so thank you. My name is Olga Palashenko, and I'm a professor in chemical engineering here at UNB. And I'm sure I'll talk about this ad nauseum later, but my work is generally in the sort of overlap between chemistry and engineering and nuclear energy.
Thanks, Olga. Jessie, you introduced us briefly to SheEO, but can you tell us more about what SheEO does and how it's impacting the lives of women in business?
Absolutely. So where I'll start is why we got started. So SheEO was founded in 2015, and the reason why is because only 2.2% of venture capital funding goes to women founders. And that number hasn't changed for decades. And in COVID, actually dropped to a 3-year low in terms of funding to women founders. And so that's why we got started, to address the inequities when it comes to access to in funding to grow your businesses and innovations. And we believe that the only way that we will create change at the pace that we want to see it is if we start stepping up and funding and supporting each other. So that's the basic idea, and how the model works is that every year, hundreds and now thousands of women and non-binary people become activators. We activate our capital, our networks, our resources to support each other and to support entrepreneurs. And so activators contribute $92 per month or $1,100 per year. And we pool all of that money together, thousands of people around the world, and loan it out in the form of 0% interest loans to support entrepreneurs that we call SheEO Ventures. So anyone can apply to be a SheEO Venture if you have a business that you're creating a better world through your product or service. And each year, the activators go online, review the applications, and decide collectively where our money and our support will go. So it's a really unique model. The ventures pay back their loans over 5 years, and then we loan out that money year after year, again and again, to support more entrepreneurs over time. So we got started in 2015, and so far we have funded and supported over 100 ventures in 5 countries. We have a 95% repayment rate on the loans. And something that we were really proud of was that during the pandemic, our ventures actually grew their businesses by 65%. And so much of it is because of this whole ecosystem of support. So when the entrepreneurs are selected, they not only receive the capital in the form of the interest-free loan, but also receive coaching from world-class SheEO development guides and access to our global community, thousands of folks who can support as connectors, as investors, as follow-on fund investors, advisors, et cetera, to really help the entrepreneurs grow their businesses and their impact in the world. Oh, and that was the last thing I forgot to mention, which is that our focus is specifically on entrepreneurs who are creating a better world, working on the world's to-do list, so creating social and environmental impact through their innovations.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing, Jessie. Thank you for that. Amy, you're a recent graduate of the founder of a tech startup. Can you describe your journey launching your business?
Sure. So I guess I started my business during my undergrad at UNB with 3 friends through the TME 4025 class, which is a course that focuses on product design and development. And we started off in the marine safety industry by designing an automatically inflating life jacket with built-in marine distress communications. And really what happened was, at first it was just a class to us, But people got really excited about the technology we were working on, and we were offered funding from different groups, the biggest one being NRC IRAP, that really pushed me to continue to work on this. And really, to accept the money that we were being offered, we had to be federally incorporated, which at first seemed really scary to me, but I'm really glad I did that. And really, all the support from the community we were trying to help really pushed me to continue and actually launch the business and move forward with it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So an alarming stat, women make only 22% of engineering undergrads, and the stats get even lower when you look at mechanics, software, and computer engineering. Women comprise only 14% of students. Olga, you recently joined UNB in the chemical engineering department. Can you tell us about your experience working as a woman leader within your field?
I sure can. So I certainly can't say that it has been without challenges, and it hasn't been sort of a tough learning curve. Some of that is because, as you mentioned, I am pretty new to the job. So I was hired last March, so I'm just about coming up on a year anniversary. And then in addition to that, in addition to being a female identifying person, I'm also one of the younger people in my department, right? So there's a certain amount of intersection of, female and young and immigrant. And so that's been somewhat challenging, but I guess to sort of tie into the more business and entrepreneurial theme that we have here, the thing I was most surprised about is how much rising sort of the ranks and entering faculty is like starting your own business, because the shift in responsibility as you sort of plod along through from degree to graduate school to sort of postdoc positions in between is quite linear. And then once you hit the professor or the faculty, especially the research stream level, I was pretty surprised to see how much you are effectively running a startup. So you're hiring your own crew, you're hiring students, research staff, postdocs, what have you, looking for sources of money, whether that's federal, provincial, internal. So that all in combination with sort of navigating being in a minority situation has been interesting. I will say that chemical engineering is a little bit better in terms of those statistics. Our undergrad cohort currently is about 40% women. So it's not all sort of doom and gloom across the board. But sort of what I found, and with some of the questions later on, I'll get into this more, is that if you are in a position, whether that's engineering or not, where you are finding that you are the only person that the only one of you, basically, it has been tremendously helpful to sort of go outside your immediate sort of zone, although there are many great resources in your department and from your peers there, and to sort of try to navigate yourself to do events like this, to reach out to peers and a more diverse peer group. So it's been challenging, but I've certainly learned quite a few sort of tips and tricks of the trade to stay sane and keep going forward.
That's great. To keep going on this, how did you get into engineering in the engineering industry, and why did you stay?
Those are deep, scary questions. So I came from science. I came from chemistry. Chemistry is my first and true love. And so for anyone out there in the pure sciences, I see you and I appreciate you. The way the research sort of led me, I work in materials, corrosion, degradation, stuff, and that sort of led me to the dark side of engineering, or maybe I found the light, hard to say, but in sort of following research passions and what I was interested in studying, and then digging in deeper into that took me into more chemical or process engineering. And then currently I'm more into the nuclear engineering, which there's a nuclear engineering power option in chemical engineering. So I get to teach in that. And why I stay, a lot of it is for the research. It's really a matter of passion and what I'm most interested in doing. As much as I complain about the job, I don't think I could really see myself doing anything else other than this. And then in sort of to end that off, representation is always really good. It was the thing that really guided me into both a career in chemistry and then engineering, is seeing folks that look like me, that are female identifying, that are younger, doing this. So on the sort of harder days where you feel very challenged by all kinds of obstacles, it is nice to remember that you are perhaps motivating somebody who doesn't think that there is room for someone like them in this position to go forward and do that.
Thank you so much for that, Olga. Amy, you have a different path than Olga. You started in engineering. What drew you to move towards entrepreneurship and to found your own business?
Yeah, so I guess the weird thing for me, I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur ever. Like, it was like probably the last thing on my list. But then I transferred from UPEI to UNB to complete my engineering degree, and that transfer wasn't very smooth. So my course load was really broken up. And so I saw the diploma in TME that you could take at UNB, and I was like, well, if it's into my schedule, why not? I'll try it out. And after 2 classes, I was hooked. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Why haven't I heard of it before? And I got so excited about it that in my final year for my senior design is when you can take that 40-25 class I was talking about before. I heard a really inspiring speech from my now professor, I guess, Kush Bubber. And I realized all the opportunities that came with it, that I've always struggled with being in engineering. It was hard for me to really see an end goal where I'm helping people directly. And being able to go into this design class and specifically find a problem out in the world that I identify with and can use my design skills was just like a dream come true for me, which is really what turned me. So yeah, just being able to use my skills to improve people's lives was what made that turn for me.
I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are going to love and like really connect with that. Jessie, what drew you to supporting women within entrepreneurship?
So it's interesting, kind of similar to Amy's story. When I was in university, I took a course about social entrepreneurship and social innovation, and that really was a formative moment for me. Had an amazing professor. She's super inspiring, became one of my mentors. And, you know, through that class, I learned so many stories of entrepreneurs out there who are just like Amy's doing, and Amy was speaking about creating a better world and using their design skills to solve critical challenges that our world is facing. And so when I discovered SheEO a few years later, I remember, and that was really, really early days. I think it had been around for 1 year at that point. So I remember stumbling upon the website and just thinking, wow, I can't believe this organization exists. And I sent a very passionate email to the founder, Vicky, who I work with now, about how SheEO really represented the intersection of 3 of my passions: community, feminism, and entrepreneurship. So it's just like this incredible blending of all 3 of those. And the more that I learned, you know, as I got started with SheEO, and when I first learned that only about 2 to 3% of venture capital VC funding goes to women, when I learned that, I knew that I just really wanted to be part of the change to address this inequity and to help create a better system and a better model that works for women and non-binary people.
Amazing. Thank you for that. This next question is a question I'd actually like to ask each of your thoughts on. What is the #1 way we can make a substantial difference for the women coming after us? Amy, Jessie, or Olga, whoever wants to go first.
I can start it off, I guess. I guess really for me, I think just supporting aspiring female entrepreneurs is going to make all of the difference. Like Olga was saying before, representation really matters. And I'm in a similar situation where I don't really see a lot of people like myself in this role. I'm starting to meet more of them through the networks I have now, which is great. But at the very beginning, I really didn't have any of that. So really just being available to meet and discuss their journeys, give advice, and make connections would be super helpful. Because I know I was terrified starting my business. And I still feel the same way sometimes. That doesn't really go away, but I know I have a stronger network to really lean on, which has been wonderful. But I do think having more women to talk to from this perspective would have been a lot more helpful. So I guess, yeah, just really being open to helping people, in general. I think that's what we can do.
Jesse,
I was going to say, I'll just pick up on that really quickly. I agree 100%, and I had a lot of the same experiences. I will add one more thing to that, and it's something I've really learned in the last year, especially supervising female students. And that has been to try and be more transparent, because not everything is always hunky-dory and wonderful working as a woman in any of our fields. And I see these statistics often that we have good success recruiting women to STEM fields, and even they'll stay through school, but then very often they'll come out of their programs and then change careers. And obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But if that is due to not really having a very realistic view on what it's going to be like working out in industry, because we're shielding everyone so much from things that we're going through in leadership positions, that sort of does a disservice to our students. And so for the first little while of this job, I was so nervous that, I have female students, female employees. That's so wonderful. I don't want to scare them away. I don't want to sort of open a door to what it's like and what some of the issues that I'm going through in a professional way. Obviously, there's an appropriate way to do it versus just ranting and letting your students sort of take the brunt of that. But you're not really doing anyone a service by hiding it all and making it seem like everything is smooth sailing for you. And then these individuals go out and hit sort of the workforce, and then you hear feedback of, well, this is nothing like how school was. Now it's, I have these problems or, these altercations or situations, and I didn't know anybody had this or how to really deal with it because it wasn't talked about. It was sort of this hush-hush mindset. So I've learned to try and be more open to, this thing happened, or I didn't like the way that something was handled, and here's what I tried to do about it, or did do about it, and having those conversations more. And I think that sort of helps a lot with the idea of retention in some of these fields and having a more realistic, open dialogue.
That's great. Jesse?
I love that point, Olga, about transparency. I feel like that's not often something talked about in this realm, but I think the more that we can share our stories and experiences, the good and the bad, right, we can all learn from each other. And totally agree with what Amy shared as well. I think it comes back to, based on what industry or sector you're in, that we can all use our power and influence to support women in different ways. So if you are in a position of power, just like Olga said, not only hiring, but really promoting women, supporting women students for that retention piece, or female employees. And I think, going back to Amy's point about when you got started, not seeing a lot of other women entrepreneurs being talked about, the more that we can share each other's stories, promote women entrepreneurs, support their businesses, and share what they're up to in the world and how their innovations are incredible, the better off we'll all be and the more impact we can create together. And Amy, I really want to encourage you and invite you to join SheEO so we can be in a community together too.
That's awesome. I do have one audience question. What advice do you have for women looking to take a similar path as you? So this will be, again, to everyone with their different paths. So whoever wants to start on that one.
I guess I can kick things off again if we'd like. I guess I have two pieces of advice. It would be, don't be afraid to ask for help and start now. Those were two things that I really, really struggled with when I started. But yeah, I was super scared to ask anyone any questions because I thought everyone knew what they were doing and I had to have everything planned out. It had to be perfect before I could even start. And so, yeah, clearly I was definitely a perfectionist at the beginning of my journey. But working in this field has pushed me so much. So I'm much more adaptable. I rely on my skills and I'm a lot more comfortable and confident in my skills. So that really only started though when I started asking my network for help, and really just wasn't scared of failure. I just said, hey, we're going to try this out, good, bad, or ugly. I'm going to learn from it. So yeah, I guess the advice is reach out to people, even if you're scared to reach out to them. In my experience, I have not had one person turn me down when I've asked for help. People want to help and want to see you succeed. So just reach out to people, whether it's on LinkedIn, email, whatever works for you. But yeah, that would be my advice.
That's great advice.
I can build on that. So 2 other pieces of advice. One would be to follow your passion, and the second, to find your community. So I think that when you find something that you're really passionate about, everything just becomes easier. When you're really doing what's in your heart. And then I think a lot of the other challenges will just come more naturally because you're so passionate about the mission or the idea or the purpose. And finding your community, I think especially as women, sometimes in fields like others have shared earlier on in your one of your earlier responses, Olga, about not seeing a lot of other professors kind of in your boat. The more that we can find others who are have similar experiences as us, the more that we can share and learn from each other and support each other along the journey, which really can be a huge help, especially if you're pursuing a bit of an unconventional path.
You both literally took the words right out of my mouth. Both the words community and ask for help were in my notes. I will add to that in sort of finding your village, your tribe, your community, what have you, don't only look for peers that are too similar, because it's good to have someone who is where you would like to be in 10 years or in 20 years. So try to have a diverse group in your sort of community, in your back pocket, because that will give you some perspective, especially when you are encountering challenges. It's nice to obviously have a group of peers that are going through exactly what you are, so you can, complain and blow off steam and get, constructive, productive conversations going. But it sometimes pigeons you in a little too much. And if you don't have that diverse, age range and different genders and all of that stuff, it can sort of make things seem a little too status quo. So I would say try to add some diversity to that.
Wonderful. We have another question. It's going to be pushed onto the screen. There we go. Part of transparency is related to images of the future. Where do the futures that shape women's perceptions of the potential, the menus for making choices, come from? What reproduces such images?
I can go first. I think a lot of the images that we see about what's possible for women is really based on what the media chooses to share. And right now, 19% of business media mentions are of women. So it's kind of going back to those stats that were shared at the beginning. There's clearly just a lot of systemic bias all throughout against women. But I think one of the things that we can do, and one of the things that we do at SheEO, is really elevating and highlighting and promoting the stories of women in business, of women entrepreneurs, so that that can create a different future and a different idea of what's possible for other women out there.
Amy, Olga? Any addition or words you want to add to that?
I guess I'll just add on that very similar to Jessie. Some of that is just how our day-to-day conversations go. So how we talk about what the future looks like for me, for example, women in engineering. If the sort of water cooler conversations you're having is just a series of, oh, there are no women hired here, or this department has no female professors, or it seems very disparaging. So it seems like you're saying this is how it is and this is how it's going to continue to be, and sort of what's the point of even trying. So I think some of that is also being cautious of the narrative that we sort of weave, even when we think no one is listening or no one's paying attention. So some of that is verbal dialogue as well of how we are laying that groundwork to be based on what we're currently maybe frustrated with or experiencing, to try to sort of keep it optimistic and positive, both for your own sanity and also for that greater sort of image of the future.
I guess just to add on, I really like how both of you answered that question. I guess really just from my point of view, what Olga was just saying is, I guess being in engineering, I guess I've been on the receiving end of a lot of that conversation. Like when you, at my time, I worked at Elanco briefly, just as an engineering student. And there was always the talk of, oh, well, you got hired over all the guys just because you're a girl. Like, that's just a normal conversation that, yeah, Olga, I know, heard a lot of that stuff before. And it's just really discouraging. And that's actually one reason why entrepreneurship seemed like such a better route for me, was because I got to write my own story. I didn't have to listen to what other people were saying about me getting hired or not, telling me I don't have skills just because I'm a girl. That's been an issue too. So, yeah, it's great that we are starting to change that dialogue. It's just unfortunately going to take some time and some hard work, but I know we're going to get there.
Going on that, we actually have another great question. What would be the best advice you received and that you would like to give someone?
I guess I can jump in. The best advice that I was given would be to keep moving. I'm definitely one of those analysis paralysis kind of people. I just freeze, and that's a habit that I'm trying to break. I'm getting better at it, but you just have to keep moving. It's just like riding a bike, right? When you try to stop, you're going to fall over. So just continuing to move forward, willing to make mistakes, and just being open to learn through those mistakes is definitely the best advice I received. And I have definitely given it to a lot of people, and I will continue to.
Amazing. Thank you.
It's going to sound a little bit less polished, but give him hell. I will expand on that slightly and just say, just leave it at the door. When you are done working for the day, when you have clocked out, whether that's 9 to 5 or, 9 to forever, you keep working. Whatever it is that someone said to you that wasn't great, or whatever experience that you had that didn't go the way it really should have, don't let that seep into sort of every avenue of your life. I mean, work is wonderful, and obviously all of us on this panel and our hosts and moderator are very passionate about what we do, but it isn't everything. It can't be everything. So, give them hell in the hours that you're meant to be doing that, and then clock out mentally, because those people, don't live with you, don't pay your bills, don't sort of have any ownership on you. So whatever interactions you're having that are not, what they should be, don't let that sort of control your life.
I love that. Thanks, Olga. I'll add something that my mom has always ingrained in me since I was a kid, which is to do things that you feel scared of. So not necessarily like skydiving. I'm scared of that. I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon, but challenging myself, like personally and professionally. And so I remember, when I was a kid, I was scared to do debate. And so she if you're scared, you have to do it. And I really applied that kind of philosophy and that mindset throughout my life ever since. And what that has enabled me to do is to really take risks and to push myself out of my comfort zone every time before I feel ready. And on the flip side, when I do things that I don't necessarily feel ready for, it shows myself that I'm capable of more than I think of, and has really contributed a lot to building confidence over time.
Awesome. I've been asked to answer the question too, and it kind of goes into what Jesse was just saying. I'm not sure if someone told me this or if I read this, but it always stuck with me was not to go or to hold on to labels that you give yourself or that people give you. Most of my life, I would say that like I'm not a good reader. I can't read fast, but actually I can read pretty quickly, but it's just labels that we give ourselves. I label myself as a great salesperson, and it makes sales so much more fun, so much more easy. But if I label myself as not that great at social media, I kind of already give myself that little piece that I'm like, oh, I'm not really good. It's not fun. I might not be great at it. People are better than me at it. But as soon as you let go of those labels of anything, it can be at accounting, at designing, at every little label that you can give yourself in something in your business. I find if you don't label yourself as anything and you just kind of go for it and you're not scared of it, like Jesse said, it really helps a lot. So this is actually going to be closing up. Is there any of you that would like to add any closing words? Some advice, something you've learned, something you would like to throw out there to our viewers?
I guess I just want to thank everyone for having me here. This has been wonderful. It's been great to meet all of you. And yeah, if going into entrepreneurship or any kind of different stream, I guess, than you think you have any reservations about, don't be afraid to try. You can always switch after. There's a lot of great people you can reach out to learn their experiences and get a better idea of what's actually going to be happening. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun to talk to you. If anyone ever wants to reach out to me, you can find me on LinkedIn or whatever you prefer. But yeah, this has been great, and good luck with whatever you choose to do.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed this discussion with you, Olga, Amy, and Estelle. And similarly, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if I can be of help. And I also just want to say, at the beginning, the stats that we looked at, a lot of them look bleak, but conversations like today and learning from what these other women are doing and how they're creating change always leaves me feeling really inspired and excited to get back to the work. So I hope that you all listening also similar feels optimism about the future and the change that we're creating together.
I will echo those sentiments. This was a really lovely way to start the semester. Today's our first day back to at least virtual classes for UNB. So this is a nice thing to do before lecturing and before all of the kind of crazy hubbub happens. So thank you for having me. And it's been, as in most of these sort of panels that focus more on women or minorities, this has been really lovely, and listening to everyone's stories and comments and how much we all, even coming from different backgrounds, relate and overlap is always really awesome. I'll leave off with saying that if you, if someone out there listening, or someone who feels like they are sort of interested in engineering or are in some sort of tangential field, like you're in one of the sciences and you think that it's too late or there's too much of a barrier to entry, or you should have just done engineering to start with and now it's that ship has sailed, that's never really true. I know lots of folks, myself included, that have jumped ship from field to field, including engineering, sciences. So if you think that it's too difficult or too sort of far-fetched and there's no one doing that sort of Venn diagram intercept, I would encourage you to go for it and to do your research and look around, and you would be surprised how many sort of creative interpretations of what science and engineering and business and entrepreneurship and the Venn diagram overlap of all of those fields, how much you can find people working in all of those areas.
That's great. Thanks, Olga.
Well, thank you very much for such great words. Thanks so much, Estelle. It was great to see you. Sorry you couldn't be here in person. Look forward to the opportunity when we'll be able to sit back down together and have a chat. That was a fantastic panel. Great advice, and I really appreciate all the words that were said there. So thanks so much. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, Dom. Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you too. All the best. So now it's my great privilege to be able to introduce to everybody Jana Giles. Jana is a fourth-year chemical engineering student from Moncton, New Brunswick. However, after a lot of travel, hi Jana, she now calls Fredericton home. We are, I heard Jana talk as part of a TCP pitch, Technology Commercialization Program pitch, and I was just absolutely blown away by her confidence and strength. So Jana's interests in terms of her academic aspects are at the intersection of energy engineering, environmental management, and international development, which is a phenomenal area to be in and not busy at all. You know, and whenever I think about sort of that engineering, chemical engineering and international, I always think about Engineers Without Borders. And of course, Jana's been there, even acting as president, and worked with a startup in Uganda, which is fantastic. And you can see how this sort of fits into the UNESCO chair that we're working on as well. Jana, I'm so happy that you're able to join us today. Thanks a lot for taking time out of your schedule. I know it's first day back at classes, but I really wanted to hear the Jana story and let everybody else participate in that. So without further ado, Jana, over to you.
Thanks so much, Don. I'm just gonna fiddle with screen sharing here, and then we'll get started. Is that working okay? I don't know if someone can verbally let me know. Hearing nothing, we'll get going. Oh, okay. So I was asked to...
Jana, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Don. So like Don said, I was asked to tell a story today. A story about me, a story that would talk about what it's like to be a woman in innovation, what it's like to be a woman. And I thought about this a lot, and it made me emotional and nostalgic to think about how my identity as a woman has affected my journey thus far. Partially because there were times in my life that I didn't realize that being a woman was affecting my lived experiences, and partially because now that I know it does, I realize how very much it does. I've often been asked, did you grow up with brothers, in response to my hyper-competitive demeanor? And the answer is technically nope, just my awesome but very uncompetitive little sister, who's actually 20 now. But I did grow up surrounded by boys. From the age of 6 months old, my babysitter's son, who was 1 year older than me, was a constant source of competition. He was bigger than me, so I was always trying to be smarter and faster, to keep up with him and then do even better than him. I remember being competitive about who could color in the lines the best, who could race back to the house from the yard the fastest, even who finished their corn pops first at breakfast. I was always trying to keep up, and I always did too. When my family moved to Moncton from Halifax when I was 7, I immediately became close with the neighborhood boys. These boys were like my brothers from that age until well into high school. We spent our time racing on our bicycles, building snow forts, climbing trees, and I always kept up with them. They were my friends, and in order to fit in, I had to. In fact, they'd probably tell you it was usually me bossing them around. So no, I did not grow up with brothers, but I might as well have. And while this fact likely explains my punchy personality, at least in part, it does not explain my mindset towards interacting with boys during that stage in my life. You see, hardly ever did I let being a girl stop me from doing the things the boys were doing. It didn't matter that I was physically smaller when we were trying to reach the top branch of the tree we were climbing, or that I started menstruating for the first time the morning before a long bike ride. I pushed harder or pretended I was feeling fine in order to keep up. Why did I do those things? Well, it could be a simple case of wanting to fit in and avoid being teased. Kids and teenagers, and let's face it, adults too, fear uniqueness. They fear being anything but normal. And since my normal was usually a friend group of all boys, I did my best to make the differences between us scarce. And this sounds innocent enough, but the systemic effect of this behavior is huge. The reality of being a woman often means I'm working 50, 100, or 200% harder than my male colleagues. And I feel this today more than ever. But as a kid, I didn't know this. I didn't even know I was working harder than they were. I just wanted to keep up with the boys. And so I did. When I was about 3 years old, my babysitter's son was bothering me, hitting me and teasing me as little boys do. I was upset, and I remember my babysitter telling me, boys will be boys. At the time, I didn't question why it was acceptable for boys to be violent as children. I didn't question why they were excused from behaving without proper manners. I didn't question why aggressive behaviors were attributed to biological differences between men and women and not the result of the way our patriarchal society raises men. Instead, I took this advice and I internalized it. I said to myself, okay, if boys will be boys, then that is just something I have to deal with. I have to achieve what I want to achieve by not only doing it, but also navigating around men, accommodating men as they are while I go about doing it. In so many ways, men have one task to do, but for women, there are 20 extra obstacles to undergo in addition to that one task to complete it. When I was about 8 years old, my mother bought me a t shirt. It said, "Girls can do anything boys can do, better." She was empowering me, whether she knew that consciously or not. In her lived experiences, that was how she knew how to succeed: keep up with the boys and then do even better than them. It's not my story to tell, but throwing apples from the top of a crabapple tree at the boys who wouldn't let her play baseball with them definitely sounds like the kind of woman who would grow up to teach her daughter to never, ever let her gender hold her back. My mother was advising me on how to succeed in a society that doesn't yet recognize the actual different potential of women and just recognizes women that are able to do what men can do. Because our society continues to exist such that men have the ultimate authority, are taken as the standard, the kind of advice that tells me to keep up with the boys has been essential. I live in a man's world, but I don't let that stop me. But is that a good thing? I'm proud of my work ethic, the ability to adapt, but I'm not proud that we're living in a world where success is measured by a masculine standard. You know, when you think of a CEO, what images come to your brain? I Googled just to check, and here's what I got. Mostly men in suits, mostly men standing tall in suits, just a couple women, no people of color, and the women were also in suits and standing tall. It's uncanny. Even the few women that do make the Google search cut for CEO are dressed like the men. They look like the men. Think about that. Our society understands a CEO as powerful, decisive, confident. This definition has come from our observations of male CEOs. And thus, in order for a female CEO to be successful, she must subscribe to those ideals. Does a CEO have to be powerful, decisive, confident? Think about it. Even the words female and male show that male is the standard. It's the root word of female. Male is the standard, and female is almost the same, but slightly different. If this whole idea interests you, I really suggest you read Invisible Women. To embrace women in innovation, we have to embrace that she can be successful as many things and not just our definition of a man in innovation. I'm talking to you today, right now, because I was told to keep up with the boys. I'm a loud, confident, competitive woman as a result, the kind of woman someone might ask to speak at an event like this. And that's great for me in this patriarchal world, but what I would consider an actual success is when women who are praised for innovation are quiet, pensive, flamboyant, joyful, sarcastic. Heck, this goes way, way beyond gender. I want to see disabled people, people of color, indigenous people, members of the LGBTQ plus community, non-gender conforming people, people living in rural communities, people living in Central and South America, the Caribbean, Africa, Asia, people who were not formally educated, people of all financial statuses, people with mental illnesses in innovation. And I want to see them celebrated for their uniqueness and success in whichever form that might be for them. We, as in us here today, you alone, and we as a society, need to be open minded to the fact that these different groups of people and all groups of people are just that, different. If we cannot acknowledge these differences, and more importantly, accept and celebrate these differences, we aren't just not including all these groups, we aren't even thinking about them in the first place. We need to believe people when they talk about their experiences, support people in achieving success in their own unique way, and encourage people to question how their intersectionalities, that is, their differences, affect their lived experiences. It's empowering to know how your intersectionalities affect your experiences. Trust me. When I read Invisible Woman this past summer, I was shocked at the number of ways that being a woman is making my life harder in our current society. And I thought I was a feminist. I thought as a woman, I was aware of all the ways in which I was treated as lesser. It turns out, even as a woman, I have a lot to learn. Growing up in any town, for me, it was Moncton. From elementary school to high school, people really get to know you. They watch you grow up and they hear about your accomplishments. Because of this, I didn't feel that I was doubted often, likely because everyone around me knew what I was capable of. Being the only girl on my middle school cross country team didn't scare me. Yes, I even got pink ballet flats on in this picture. The boys on the team knew I was faster than them because they were my neighbors, my classmates, my friends, people I had known for a long time. So they didn't doubt me because they knew me already. Starting university, this was different. And that's when my perspective on gender became tangible. No one knew me other than a couple men from my high school. And I wasn't used to having to prove myself. Where I came from, I didn't have to, I already had. And suddenly I was being pushed aside in the lab, struggling to assert myself as a leader, yelling to have my opinion heard, feeling dejected, somehow not as smart as I knew I was, less capable. This is when I started to realize I was ignorant to the impact of gender. And I fear that this is how it is in the real world. People don't know you when you walk into a room. They make snap judgments about you. And in a patriarchal world, their first observation about me is consciously or unconsciously about my gender. You're taken less seriously as a woman, described as bossy rather than confident. You're assumed to be not smart or authoritative. And that's just the impact of gender. Can we take for a moment to acknowledge the innumerable other intersections that exist for myself and others that are visible and invisible in any room they walk into? Everyone has an unconscious bias towards gender, race, ethnicity, even if you're educated, even if you think you know about inequality, and even if you think you're doing your best to stop inequality. I have unconscious bias, you have unconscious bias, and the best we can do is make that unconscious bias conscious. And I think this whole concept relates to starting a business and the world of innovation. You're doing something different than the standard and wanting to get people excited about it, but they can't stop measuring you against the status quo. And so if you have no other experience with inequality, that might give you a glimmer into what it's like to be different. Stack other intersectionalities on top of that and try to get someone to listen to your new idea. This virtual room is full of innovative people. That's why you're here. So you know what I'm talking about here. So apply this to everything. Apply the idea of keeping an open mind to the very idea of innovation itself. What does innovation mean? Something different to everyone, I'd imagine. So how do we get to a place in innovation where we are not using a masculine standard and instead uniquely assess ideas and the people who bring their ideas? In my opinion, it's listening. Really, really listening to people. Listening to what they have to say and understanding what they have to say. Asking them questions and doing research to put it into perspective. During university, as Dom mentioned, I had the privilege of living in a rural town called Soroti in Uganda, which is in Eastern Africa. I was working at a startup there that was an entrepreneurship hub for local farmers who were looking to expand their business into value-added sectors like drying pineapple or making fruit juice. My role was supposed to be as a business coach. Now, I'm not from Uganda, and my knowledge of the business sphere in Uganda is incredibly limited. I've taken courses on entrepreneurship here, but I didn't want to assume that those theories applied globally. So I asked questions and I listened. To a farmer who was starting to sell individually portioned dried pineapple, I asked him, "What do you think people would be willing to pay? How much would it cost? Could you make a profit? Where are you getting the supplies? What indicates to you that people would be interested in this?" I never gave advice, only asked questions. Now, I'm not perfect, and I'm definitely not claiming to be. We all have a long way to go in truly listening to others and understanding their perspectives. But this is a start. I'm also privileged to have another opportunity to engage with the startup environment. This time, it's in my own province and it's my own venture. My classmates and I thought it would be interesting to do a senior design project that involved apple cider and green engineering, mostly just because of personal interest. So we talked to people involved in producing apple cider, and we found out that when they juice the apples to make cider, they actually have a lot of extra waste of the apple skins, the core, seeds, and the last few little bits of flesh. No cideries that we've spoken to have a consistent or profitable use for that waste. And so the idea to use this waste to make packaging was born. It was born out of understanding the needs of the apple cideries. If we'd never spoken to the cideries, I would have wanted to build wind turbines or an anaerobic digester. It was only through conversation that we learned simplicity is key, and costly additions like digesters and turbines probably aren't the solution for helping a small rural cidery be more green. And so, the power of listening. I've told you how being a woman in innovation has been a challenge. And I've told you that it's been a challenge mainly because we have these standards in our society that are based on one type of person, an able-bodied, cis, white man of average weight and height. And when you don't fit that standard, you're forced to change yourself to meet the standard if you can. I'm here to encourage everyone in innovation to embrace themselves truly, listen and learn about systems that might be advantageous or disadvantageous to you, listen to others, and question everything. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you so much, Jen. I actually got caught up in that, so I didn't get my cue from the back of the room from Rachel to get up to. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for. It can only be described as such powerful words. That's brilliant, and that last piece, the power of listening. That's fantastic, and we need to do it. As a male, we need to do it way more often. And learn about systems. We don't have all the answers, and there are other people out there who've had systems for generations and eons who are doing things that we can learn from still today to be able to do that better future. Jenna, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you very much for your powerful story. That was incredible. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Dom. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Take care. All the best and good luck with your term.
Thanks. Bye now.
Bye now. So we're going to be going to a short 2-minute break, and then we will be back with our second panel talking about rural innovation. See you shortly.
Oh, Summer Institute is being wonderful. It's been part of our journey for the past 2-3 months.
As a solopreneur, it's been, challenging to do a lot by myself for a lot of years. So having a big network to draw on for inspiration and information has been really, really great.
The thing I'm taking away from this experience the most are some of the amazing connections and entrepreneurs that I've met, and the really incredible support that I've had to grow my business and grow myself in ways that I never even knew were possible.
And the Summer Institute helped me to find the courage to stand up and talk in front of a camera. It's something that I could never do before. And the warmth, the community of the family has been something that I will carry forward with me through the rest of my life.
As an entrepreneur, I felt very alone in the world going out bringing this idea. And when I joined Summer Institute, I felt like I had family.
And being part of Summer Institute definitely changed my life.
Fun, scary, traumatic at times, exciting. The Summer Institute is crazy, but it's so awesome. It really pushes you to your limit to really make sure that your business is successful.
The Summer Institute, oh my God. The Summer Institute is elation, terror, oh my God, Fridays, friendship, people that I will never, ever, ever forget, who will always be friends. And I see the future. I didn't see that before.
Unlike anything else I've ever done before. If you're starting a business, definitely apply because it's an experience.
Welcome back, everybody. I know that was a short break. It's my privilege once again to now introduce the second panel. So we'll bring to the stage Joe Allen. Morning, Joe. Is it
Good
still
morning, everyone?
morning? Oh, it's just afternoon. Good afternoon.
12:01.
Literally just a couple minutes past. So Joe Allen is the managing director of our accelerators, both the Summer Institute and Energy Ventures here as part of the J. Herbert Smith Center. Joe is an entrepreneurial expert. He's co-founder of a distillery here in Fredericton called Devil's Keep, a micro distillery here. He also is a lecturer and instructor within our programs. Joe is an accountant by professional training, although starting out as a forester. I will put that out there, Joe. He teaches entrepreneurial finance along with Ray Fitzpatrick. So Joe is going to be joined by Shun Adiomo, Rosalind Hislop, CM Patil, and Sasha Boulay, and they are going to be discussing innovation and entrepreneurship, impact from home, looking at innovation in a rural setting. So over to you, Joe.
Excellent. Thanks, Dom. Thank you for the kind words, and really excited to be the moderator for this panel. Having grown up in a village, coastal fishing village of about 150 people, I can say that I've seen it live and experienced it, and glad that we're putting a focus on it and really looking at entrepreneurship from home. So I will get started. Sorry, I'm pausing here. I only see myself on the screen. Are the other four, the other panelists there? Okay, phew. I was having. Dom said you were there, but I didn't see you, so I had my doubts. My apologies. So, actually, great to have this panel with us today. Some wonderful entrepreneurs for all from different walks of life, and going to share some great experience with us on their journey through entrepreneurship, and especially from a rural perspective. So what I'll do is to start out, I'll get the four panelists that are with us to introduce themselves. And CM, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So good morning, good evening, with all the different time zones where we are in. From India, it's good evening, I would say. Myself, CM Patil. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Been part of the technological startup world for first 3 parts of my career, then became a social entrepreneur. I was the founding CEO of Deshpande Startups. I think you all know Gururaj Deshpande. So he actually had me work in Deshpande Foundation to promote entrepreneurship. Now I'm taking up a next baton to see how I can actually make people from farmers more an entrepreneur perspective. How do I actually look at connecting the agri-tech startups, farmer consortium, stuff like that. So in a nutshell, been my journey. Love to interact more with the things to go further. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks. Rosalind, why don't we hear from you next?
Sure. Rosalind Hislop, and I am the co-owner and co-CEO of Mrs. Dunster's with my husband and partner, Blair. And we have we purchased Mrs. Dunster's about 7 years ago, and we are a commercial bakery, and we started out with one location and about 55 employees, and we've grown to 2 commercial bakeries and 5 retail outlets, and just around 200 employees. So we've had a very fast-paced growing business, and but we do mostly. Oh, and we have we have about 400 400 to 500 products that we ship throughout the Maritimes and Maine. So anyway, so we've had an exciting journey.
Absolutely, and a delicious journey too, I would say. Sasha, why don't we hear from you next?
Yeah, I am. So my name is Sasha. I own Capture Therapeutics. We are originally from Grand Falls, New Brunswick. I started originally in a little tiny mall complex with just me as the physio, and now we own 3 rural locations across Atlantic Canada. And our goal is to have 8 to 10 more in the next few years. So it's been fast paced, and our goal is really to change healthcare and put the client back at the center while being fiscally responsible.
Excellent. That's great to hear. And Sean, we'll wrap up with you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean. So I'm a technology enthusiast with a background in computer science. Then I went on to do a master's degree in technology management. And after I've built experience as a consultant with Deloitte under its cloud engineering practice, working on Azure and AWS deployments. So I'm passionate about driving technology transformation and value creation within businesses and economies. And my latest venture draws around finding solutions to energy poverty through the lens of renewable energy and blockchain technology, where our goal is to ensure that families don't have to choose between paying for power and other basic needs due to high costs.
Excellent. Sorry, I wasn't sure whether you froze on my end or your end there for a second. So hopefully we go off without a hitch for the rest of the way. And welcome back, CM.
I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries.
Thanks on my end.
Yep. No worries at all. So from your perspectives, and this is a question for the group, what is the biggest challenge in rural entrepreneurship that you see at the moment for your business in your area?
Okay, so if I may go first,
Absolutely.
So I would see more is the aspiration, the compassion part of it, the purpose. See, for me, the definition of entrepreneurship is somebody who can see his problem as an opportunity. And particularly in the rural innovation side, I'm not very sure that all of them sees a problem as an opportunity. They still feel that as a problem, somebody else to solve it. So we need that people see who have that who can envisage that, hey, here is a problem. Can I solve it? Can I attempt to solve that? That exposure, that compassion to address it, and the ability to look at solutions of that problem is something which is vastly missing, I would say, in most of the rural parts. They all expect somebody else to solve it, not make themselves as a focal point to address that point. I think that is where the seed of germination starts there. If the moment I start seeing problem as an opportunity, I think I have taken first 2 steps towards entrepreneurship. Then we'll figure out who could actually work with, how can we bring in a solution, things like that. This is, if you look at it in metros, there are ample amount of opportunity for us. But where in rural, everybody feels it's somebody. Was I clear, Joe?
Yes, for the most part, you cut out a little bit, but absolutely, and you're absolutely right. Growing up in the communities that I grew up in, far too often we would look to someone else to solve the problem on a macro scale. On a micro scale, we could jimmy rig and fix and make a piece of equipment work for an extra 5 years through innovation. and bubble gum and tape and string. So you know, and that's what it was. It was innovation. So absolutely. Yeah. Sasha, how about you? We'll hear from you.
In terms of my end, there's quite a few challenges, but I would say the main is labor. It's the reality, whether you're in professional or in basic blue collar jobs. It's for my personal business, our labor is professional. The barriers we're focusing, New Brunswick's focused on immigration, great, but the barriers to actually have someone work for me as a professional and register across Canada and locate themselves in a rural region, they're just too grand for us to actually take advantage of them, of those policies and those new procedures, which is sad because we're losing our talent in rural New Brunswick. The kids don't think there's anything there. And it's how do you reinvigorate our communities in a way that, because community sense can't be stronger than in rural regions. And how do we focus on building sub-communities that can also support different cultures and actually bring the youth that are excited to create something new for Atlantic Canada and all the regions?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Sean.
Yeah. So I will be speaking from an African perspective here. And the biggest challenge I see is infrastructure deficits. And in terms of infrastructure, I mean roads, housing, power, insecurity, among others. For example, if you look at a country like Nigeria, we have about $1.5 trillion in infrastructure deficits. And these are economic drivers that are lacking for both entrepreneurs and rural dwellers. So you can consider a startup trying to build probably the next $1 billion app, but with only 4 hours of power per day. It makes it difficult for them to be able to get that off the ground. And for entrepreneurs trying to solve social problems through innovation, it staggers the growth amidst them walking through this challenge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, especially in Nigeria, it's only going to get worse because by 2050, I think it's forecast that Nigeria will be the 4th largest country in the world or the 3rd largest country population-wise. So definitely have challenges to come. And Rosalind, last but not least.
I guess just similar to Sasha's points, trying to encourage our young people to stay at home and to not look for work elsewhere, and help them understand that they can stay here and be successful, and because there's lots of people that are doing that, and then the other thing is the immigration piece and our declining population. So, we have a lot of baby boomers retiring, the population is dwindling, and immigration is right now the key to that, and building communities for the immigrants in rural communities so that they will come and stay. And getting them to come isn't as hard as it is to get them to stay. And then also just the whole immigration process. It's a very lengthy and detailed process. And so if that's the solution, then we need to figure out how to cinch that up so that we can get people here faster.
Do it a little more expeditiously. And right. Absolutely, it certainly is a challenge. Sorry, I keep on having a telemarketer call me. I'm sure it's vital information, but no, absolutely, yeah. So, CM, you work as the CEO and the co-founder of Krishi Kalpa Foundation, which is focused on uplifting farmers. You've been a co-founder of 2 other ventures. How did you get into the startup space, and what keeps you here?
Okay, so one of the topic which is also close, because I come from a rural place, one of the remote parts in Karnataka, part of India, where unlike many people, I actually went into Bangalore only in search of job. Never thought that I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I would say I was sheer lucky here because I was fortunate to join a company, a small company at that point in time, back in early 2000s, where I was very, very clear with my goal that I wanted to be a technical design engineer in my life. So for me, the reason why I chose this job was also to get into that particular job. And the day when I was offered a job in that particular company, which I wanted, which I dreamt of for a long time, The same time, my current company at that point in time offered me to be a partner in the company. I said, now I know how to get a job. Why not try entrepreneurship? So that is where I started fantasizing about the word entrepreneurship. And this is why I said I was pure lucky at that point in time. But by then that entrepreneurial bug had bitten me. So because can you do anything which actually makes a difference in one's life? That glued me for most of my part of it. And thanks to my father, my dad, I told him that I have an opportunity to either to work as an employee or as an entrepreneur, where I may not be making perks as much as I can do it in my employment. He said, as long as you can make for your life, I have no problem in choosing whatever career you want to be. And I thought, let me try for a couple of years and then see what I can do. Thankfully, touchwood, I've been part of 3 startup journey, out of which 2 I co-founded, and then that's my for-profit world what I've done. And off late, towards 2016, I started into development sector, where I got immersed with that. Can I bring in my corporate excellence to a compassion in a development sector, so that we can do a lot in the social sector? And that is where I would say myself, I became a social entrepreneur than from a pure entrepreneur what I was earlier. So now at Krishikalpa, this is more, just to get a credit, I'm a CEO, I'm a founding CEO here. There are 4 different co-founders. They all felt that there are very few people in the industry who knows how to solve a problem in an entrepreneurial way. At the same time, also work with governments and make them do a necessary policy changes. At the same time, make an impact for a grassroots level, because many of the development sector typically get from a typical social background. But I was here coming from a for-profit entrepreneurial world, marrying to the social entrepreneurship side. So that was a unique combination of what I had, and that's how I started, I would say. And yeah, thoroughly I'm enjoying these 2 words, because I have seen the cutthroat competition of what we do in a for-profit world. At the same time, the impact what we wanted to envision to the small and marginal farmer is pretty high over here. So I'm only trying to see, can I bring the best of the 2 worlds into one particular do and see how it goes to flourish the next stage. So that's what keeps me going, Joe.
Excellent. And you used a wonderful word there in your journey is fantasized. And I'm sure we all at one point or another, fantasized about our startup or even the creation of our startup. And even I remember from the time I was a little boy, I always wanted to have my own company. And, I've co-founded one now, and, on days, on tough days, I just have a drink, and it's right at my fingertips, so it's easy.
Absolutely. In fact, when I joined Deshpande Startups, the only purpose was to see, can I create more and more number of particles? So that was my fundamental thought why I joined that particular sector. And I think Dom and a couple of you guys have visited that facility, so it's entirely altogether different world today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sasha, so you've been very vocal about capture therapeutics in rural areas of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. What drew you to entrepreneurship in the first place, and why have you kept the rural focus with capture?
Oh, I'm the typical or the accidental entrepreneur, they call. I was a terrible employee, decided to start my own thing because I didn't agree with the system. I wanted to provide accessible care to people. I had a fond passion for women's health. And I realized that for most of my rural communities, if I refer them to a specialist, you're waiting about 3 years. The fact that that's acceptable in our healthcare drove me absolutely bananas, in a polite way of saying it. So I realized there was a huge need in serving these communities, even though people said it was impossible to do so financially. We've figured out a way at this point where we can provide multidisciplinary care, a whole team, and also integrate our specialists as needed. So it kind of is changing healthcare in a new way. But what's funny is now the urban cities are calling. But I'm like, you know what? No, like right now, our niche and our need is in rural communities. I'm not sure our model works in the urban areas. It may, but the fact is, my passion is driven by the need of accessing healthcare. And that's where it currently is in Atlantic Canada. And that's where my focus will be for the next foreseeable future.
Yep. And there's nothing more that drives a founder than a desire to change and a passion to drive that change. So you've equipped yourself with 2 of the most important tools for the journey.
And as hard as the pandemic has been on service industries, and I'm not going to lie, it's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and it's been a challenging few years. And we exploded during the pandemic. We made hard decisions. And I always wonder, like, is that going to lead to the change I want. I hope so. But I've also been able to provide a lifestyle that I think the pandemic has increased in terms of people want to be where there's a little more space. So our employees we focus very hard on being employee centric and making sure they're in a non-competitive atmosphere, so that if Rosalind walks in and needs an appointment and her best therapist is actually the guy beside her, they'll transfer that one with no competition included. So that way the client is really at the center. And I think if we can develop that in a rural community and attract young talent there, it's a model that could expand across Atlantic Canada and hopefully in urban at some point.
Yeah, the firm approach is so nice, so that you've got a group of different specialists that can really provide the best care for the client is great. Yeah, absolutely. Sean, you've got an exciting new startup called Clean Meter Systems. Can you tell us why you decided to tackle this large scale issue in Africa?
So growing up around this problem was a big motivator for me, because you watch government after government come and unable to solve this problem. And growing up, you picture yourself going to sleep in 36-degree weather, no fan or no air conditioning, unable to charge your devices or power any appliance in the home. Surely this affected productivity, and now think of this at a national level, how this affects everyone. That was how Clean Meter was founded, because we believe that there is an unexploited solution channel in scaling renewable energy system adoption. And similar to how Africa leapfrogged from full-scale adoption of the landline telephone to recording 46% smartphone penetration today, the belief is that we might never get the traditional grid power system to work, but the renewable energy system could be the leapfrog out of energy poverty. And that's why we are on a mission to make acquisition of these systems as cheap as paying monthly power bills. So you consider a household with probably a monthly income of $250, it's obvious that such household is unable to afford a $600 renewable energy system to power their homes. But there is a possibility that they could afford $25 a month for about 2 years until they own the system. So this way, the kids are able to have power to get through their homework, charge devices, and improve overall productivity. And another segment that excites me about our work is the application of our work in transforming diesel to clean energy across First Nation communities in Canada. And I'm very excited to be working with the folks at Grey Wolf Analytics as we marry renewable energy solutions with blockchain in bringing clean energy to these communities.
Yeah, clean energy is a must, and we all know the connection between energy poverty and education and the outcomes for younger people. So I think it's a great project, and good on you for taking it on. Rosalind, you've been a major champion of New Brunswick and keeping talent within our province. What drew you to entrepreneurship in the first place, and why are you such a strong advocate for keeping talent, especially in rural communities such as Sussex?
So back when I was in high school, I was involved in a program called Junior Achievement, which was basically a program for high school students to learn about business and entrepreneurship in particular. And that just lit a spark in me that lasted for forever, still going. And my husband Blair and I actually met when we were in Junior Achievement in high school. And, we talked on our first date about owning our own businesses, and then that morphed into owning a business together. And so we've always had the dream to have our own family business. And, and then life got in the way. We had kids and, jobs and all of these things, and lived in different parts of the Maritimes and Canada. and finally came home. And then the opportunity for to buy Mrs. Dunster's came up, and just finally seemed like the right time and the right business for us, the right opportunity. So we were very excited about that. I would say that, in terms of the importance of keeping talent home, Blair and I, right from the beginning, really felt privileged and blessed to be able to do what we love at home. And so, we've been able to make something of that. And through that journey, we've also realized how many other successful businesses are in our communities, and especially rural communities, that are doing very well, and they're doing more exciting things than we are, and doing better than us even. So we just really felt like, our young people were getting a different message on media and, through different outlets that it wasn't good here and that they did need to go somewhere else. And so we really felt passionate about getting that message out. And so just whenever we get the opportunity, we do talk about the success that we do have and the wins that we get and all of that, because we want them to understand that, yeah, you can stay home and be successful and do all of those things. And, and we also really try to encourage other businesses that are, doing well and are successful to talk about theirs as well, so that we can keep that talent at home.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's the Maritime Challenge or the New Brunswick Challenge is that we do not brag well enough.
That's right.
We do.
We're humble by nature.
We live in the humblest country, and we're the humblest province within that country, I think, sometimes. And we are doing amazing things, and it's a shame that we're not shouting it from the rooftops more often. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Blair always says that a strength overplayed is a weakness. So I think we're overplaying our humble, and that it's kicking us in the butt. So
absolutely. My apologies. I think I'm getting an Amazon package. Support local, though. Support local. Some things I can't get locally, like printer ink. So, question for everyone: what's the number one way we can make a substantial difference for our rural CEOs? For those living in rural communities who want to start a business, what can we do to help them and support them? Sorry, it's a question for everyone, so feel free to fire away.
Well, I'll jump in. I think one of the best things that we can do is to, support and mentor others that are coming up, and and helping them get involved in the community and the businesses that are there, and just mentor them as best we can. That'll be the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I may go, Joe.
Yeah.
Sasha, you want to go?
Go right ahead, hon.
Okay. So basically, what I see is that particularly what I've seen most part in India, right? I think we need lack of local examples. I think for that we need to create a lot more folks who are coming from that to lead by an example. Let's say, for example, if you take a particular province there, whosoever you can help out, as one of my co-panelists suggested, right? We have to mentor one or two people there. And if one or two successes are there, that success breeds successes. Now, automatically, there will be a continuous catastrophic effect, which actually leads to a lot more successes. So my biggest thing is that getting that 1 to 0 is that the difficult one. 0 to 1 is a difficult part. And once we are able to get that particular thing going on, I think the example will keep on start rolling out. I have seen myself very closely, be it in Hubli or now what I'm doing at Krishi Kalpa, is that I'm all trying to see that can I create one successful entrepreneur who can then, because the difference should not be very high. For example, if I'm practicing tennis, if I go and compete with Roger Federer, I'll be losing hope on entrepreneurship. Rather, if I go and get somebody whom I can compete with, right, create one or two examples, then get it that entrepreneurship can be democratized. That sort of thought has to be sunking in. Once that sunks in, hey, this guy can do, why can't I do? The moment that feelings gets rested in the rural parts, right, I think that is where the real transformation happens. And for me, for all of this to happen, one or two key successes are far more important. The moment when we are able to create one or two successful examples in rural parts, automatically there'll be a floodgates open for too many people to solve some of those things. So that's what my weave Joe on that.
No, absolutely great.
I think. Okay, Joe.
Yep, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that leads into a point that comes to mind about improving systemic support for entrepreneurs in rural communities. So it's a lot of risk for entrepreneurs around Africa, especially thinking about how there's this big infrastructure deficit. You practically take on a large portion of every aspect of being an entrepreneur, your own security, your own water corporation, your own water board. So you provide basically everything, and that's a lot of risk for entrepreneurs, which doesn't lead a lot of people to thinking that's a path for them, because there's no safety net for you practically, no assistance from government, no EI for you to fall on, and that's I think has hampered innovation and a lot of young talents that will have come up with brilliant solutions. So if we have better systemic support for entrepreneurs in rural areas, I believe we would have more innovation coming up.
No, absolutely, for sure. Sasha.
The last point I would hit is, especially in our region, we are having trouble with connectivity. Without, I'm sure we've heard this a million times over the last few years, but broadband, actually have access to internet and fast enough to participate in this world. We want to raise the next generation of entrepreneurs and thinkers and leaders, but currently they can't even plug into their education system. We need to look at the whole picture and not just what's currently happening, but how do we support those future generations? And that infrastructure will be key to getting around in this world with how fast the technology is accelerating. So I think there needs to be a huge focus on that infrastructure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Infrastructure will play a big part. And earlier you used the word of community. One thing that at least I see from my perspective with Devil's Keep Distilleries, we're very collaborative with one another. We compete. There are over 100 different local producers of alcohol in New Brunswick, but we work together. And a lot of us are in a rural setting, but we work together. It's not a problem for me to call up one of my competitors and say, hey, can I borrow a cup of sugar, sort of thing, but from a business perspective. So I think that, from a taking care of the community, whether you're in the same rural community or in an adjacent rural community, you work together, you help one another. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do to support one.
And I think that speaks on the culture of that rural community.
Yep.
And versus maybe that leads into your next question of misconceptions, but in terms of privilege, bias, and power, and the negative impact of not having that rurally. You have to depend on the community to actually build yourself up and get to the next level.
No, absolutely, yeah. And you can't be the black sheep that alienates everyone and then turn back to them and say, hey, would you buy my stuff?
Doesn't work.
I know I told my so-and-so I didn't like you, but please buy my stuff. You're right. It doesn't work. So one more question, two more questions to go. Another question for everyone, and Sasha, you kind of led into it. What are common misconceptions people have about starting or running a business in a rural setting? And how do we battle this challenge, this misconception?
I think we forget that rural communities actually have an impact into the global economy of the bigger picture. We seem to disregard them, put our resources in cities, and then think that's where everything's coming up. But if you look at the statistics in Canada, I think it's about 30% actually comes from these rural communities. That's a huge chunk to lose and to not support. And with the amount of population that could actually live and be developed in these areas, I think it's a missed opportunity if we don't start focusing on our rural communities.
No, absolutely. Especially in New Brunswick, our urban-rural divide is very rural. So we do have a large portion of our population in rural centers. So we should be making as many inroads as possible to support these companies. I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else for misconceptions?
So one other thing which I would love to go is here that many people believe that it's all about money. I think the fundamental misconception what some of these rural entrepreneurs feel that it's the way to make money. I'm not saying money is there. Money is certainly the byproduct, but they should have a compassion to solve that particular issue to the larger problem. Only then we'll actually get into that part. And also lack of that one other thing what I've seen most part is that people believe everything they alone one person can do. They kind of underestimate the teamwork. I think that plays a very crucial role. For me, entrepreneur is all about rather than me doing everything, can I know who all can help me do this particular thing? That's the leadership quality, what the common misconception, because they all feel like a kind of a hustler where they are meant to solve everything. No, it's not. For an entrepreneur, it's actually the group of people who are going to solve. So most of the people who are starting new have that misconception that everything the buck stops only at that particular thing. I think they have to let go that feeling and then say, can they unite? Can they get the team focus on that and then solve it out? That's the one of the common misconceptions what I see, especially in the small towns. But I think things are changing now. People are believing in community. People are believing in collective work and collaborative. So that is where we can make 1 + 1 = 11.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Wonderful. Rosalind, schön.
I do. Yes.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ron.
Go ahead.
Okay. One thing I would say is that, just, kind of adding on to what CM said about, collaborating and having that support, even with your competitors, we have had great success in working with other bakeries in other areas, other rural areas, across the Maritimes. And, and that has really, really helped us. Whereas, there's often a mindset that, okay, those are your competitors. You need to stay away from them and, do your own thing and stay in your lane. But, collaborating with like-minded or like businesses has hugely helped with our success. And you just figure out what are their strengths, what are your strengths, and you help each other out. And that has been, I would highly recommend that as a way to help businesses grow and be successful.
Yeah. We far too often we equate the word competition with enemy, and we shouldn't.
No.
All right, Sean?
Yeah, so another common one I see is underestimating the savviness of this market, whether technology savviness, tech savviness, or savviness in terms of choosing quality products or services. The word rural is usually associated with maybe illiterate or uneducated, and this is not true. A solution to this is as entrepreneurs, instead of writing off such market as, oh, our solution won't work there, why don't we scale or balance the scale of our innovation to the target markets and not build based on what we think the market should want? And a good example of this I've seen is in the adoption of e-banking. It was very difficult when e-banking was trying to go into rural communities with smartphones when they don't even have smartphones. But then came along innovations like USSD codes in a lot of African countries, which provides full banking functionalities that's possible on a smartphone, on feature phones. So if we look beyond assumptions, there are massive opportunities in this market.
No, absolutely. And you're right. It's far too often we think it can't happen here. We think that the best ideas come from New York and Toronto and Mumbai, and how could it happen in my little village of 50 people or 500 people or 1,000 people, and it can. There's absolutely no reason why it can't. So to wrap it up, we've got we're down to about our last 5 minutes. It's been a great conversation, and thank you all for the participation. So final question for everyone: what has helped you to get to where you are, and what advice would you have for someone that wants to head down your similar path? So open up for everyone. Sasha, you want to lead it?
Sure. Personally, anybody who thinks business is easy, it's hard. So hard work, grit, and the ability to face fear and failure are key to making it to the other side of success. As well, if you have those qualities, find the other people who have those qualities. Find those same-minded people that are just a few steps ahead of you. That way they've already opened the doors you're trying to open, and they can give you the right advice. And don't shortchange the kind of advice you can provide as a different opinionated person that is just starting out as well.
Excellent. And one of the keys there is to remember that you're looking to the person 2 steps ahead of you. So don't forget to look behind you, because someone's going to be 2 steps behind you.
And they're looking, mentor the next generation.
Exactly. Yeah. Pay it forward always.
So I would say that just a couple quick things. One, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. And find an entrepreneurial, peer group, and a diverse one, diverse in age and culture and business sizes, and so that you have a really rich, peer group and different points of view and perspectives is super important. And also, especially if you're starting out, go to other places, not necessarily in your main area because competitors, whatever, but go to other areas in the Maritimes in the country and see other businesses that are doing what you're doing and see how they're doing it. Business entrepreneurs love to share what they're doing. And, as long as you're not the competitor down the street, then, they're really happy to show you what they're doing. And you can gain a lot of knowledge from that and keep from making, a lot of mistakes that way. And then the other thing I would say is just always keep learning.
Yeah. And you're right. Personally, I love to visit other competing businesses in different regions. I mean, they're distillery tours, but they're, it's still work. So, yeah.
We still do it all the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because there's always learning there.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So it's been mentioned today, passion is important, but along with passion and many other things, I feel that many projects I've been passionate about because I didn't consider timing, consider the market. So along with passion, grit is important. And then you have to consider all the other factors surrounding you as well. And do it for the right reasons. It's never a straight path. So you absolutely have to have a motivator or something to get you up every day and keep focusing on the big picture.
Absolutely. And it's funny, at the end of the day, money always isn't the biggest motivator. It's hard. I mean, I'm passionate for my bank account to be full, but is it really passion? It's more of a, I want my bank account full. And really the passion that I'm putting into my enterprise is what fills the bank account. It's a bit of a lagging indicator versus a leading indicator. And CM.
Sure. So for me, the thing is, I think what has kept me going is all about the compassion. I think fire in the belly. I think we need to all of us have got method. We will be chasing some mad race. Can we try to put a methods to that madness? I think that's one of the best advice what I got from a mentor. And I've always believed that one of my fellow panelists who said that surround yourself with some people because you'll be average of the people whom you surround with. So try and see, can you be accompanied with your best partner? And for me, as I said, the thing, always an entrepreneur should actually learn the guts. How much ever the data gives you, design things in, you need to have that intuitive thinking. Trust your gut, go to the next stage. Just that have that enjoy the journey. Basically, I think the moment when we start enjoying entrepreneurship, I think everything starts in place. So my only advice to the fellow entrepreneurs is that have a deep compassion. Why are you doing this? Know the reasons why are you going to make it out. See that how you can leave a legacy. How can you leave your own dents on the problem what you're trying to solve, and be truthful for yourself. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Let's look at a larger picture, so that by doing it in a large scale, we actually benefit from each other. So for me, it's all been about that, and that's what I would like to pass on to my next people who are there who are going to try an entrepreneurship part of it.
Excellent. Excellent. Great advice, everyone. Great. I've really enjoyed this. It's been 45 minutes, and it's been a quick 45 minutes. So thank you all for joining us today, sharing your insights and your experiences of what life is and entrepreneurship is in rural communities. And I will turn the floor back to Don. Thank you all.
Thanks so much, Joe. And I want to say thank you very much to this panel. We do live in rural communities, and sometimes we forget the impact that sort of quasi-isolation exists out there, and how we have to work together, and that networking piece is critical. And I think, Sasha, you said that extremely well when you were talking about it. And also, it's very evident that the connectivity part is kind of critical. I know CM and Shun were having some problems with connectivity every once in a while, and networking's dropped. And Rosalind, I just wanted to point out, I'm sat next to Dharendra, and he said, please bring back the garlic cheese buns. He's like, oh, I love those. Anyway, I really want to thank you so much for all joining us today. CM, it is so good to see you, my friend. It has been too long since I've been back to India. We were hoping to come again in February, where we might be able to see you. Unfortunately, COVID has put DD back online, but we will get there soon. Thanks so much for your insights. I greatly appreciate it. Joe, thanks so much for your work. And thanks, everybody, for participating with us today.
Thanks.
So now I will ask, there he is, partner in crime, Jonathan Kaloff. So, Jonathan, we have our job, I guess, is to sort of wrap up what has taken place today. So I guess let's get at it. Do you want to start off with your view on that panel that we just listened to?
Yeah, I mean, if I got to tell you, if anything epitomizes what our UNESCO chair is all about, it was those two panels. And when I say that, because once again, we're a chair of impact. And how do you have impact? Well, you listen to those that are experienced, that are having the problems, that are dealing with the issues. And I can't imagine a better panel than the one that we just had, and you'll talk more about the Women Innovation panel as well. Joe, Joe is a treasure for UNB, and again, back to the UNESCO chair. Not only is he a program lead, he's also an entrepreneur. So this is another example of the program going, now we're not just going to be pure academic and management. We're going to make sure we have people with that experience. I really like the comments around, and I'm going right now to some of the ending comments. Missed opportunity, and this came from Sasha, if we don't focus on the rural communities. Again, what's driving the chair? I mentioned earlier about open innovation and the regional value change, and just I'm the academic, right? And Sasha, as the entrepreneur, experienced person, echoes the same comments. This really validates what we're doing. The other thing about that panel that I just took great pride, joy in, and thank you for putting this together. India, talking about India rural problems and how that can be applied in other areas. Africa, Nigeria, with the same talk, and UNB. So this is, once again, bringing together these different communities to try and discuss common areas of problems that we can deal with under the anticipatory framework. So really outstanding panel, great speakers, a lot learned from it. and good support for some of the theories that we're advocating in practice. Last thing I want to say, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you to wrap it up. A program like the one that we're doing, my friend, requires a strong backbone. It's not just about you and me, it's about what's driving it from behind as well. So I got to give a big shout out and thank you to Rachel Clark and to Ashley Donaher. I cannot tell you how many of these virtual events we've been part of that they have so extraordinarily well organized. I actually sent an email to them the other day saying, you're making Dominic and I look better than we deserve. The press releases that they prepared, the organization they put on, the technical element that they've been managing, the comments in the back room. Really big thank you to you two for everything you've done. And you know, you'll thank some other people as well, but I wanted to bring them up.
Oh, no, that's, and I want to echo those words. Jonathan, Ashley, and Rachel are part of the team, and we're all in this together. And they're sat at the back, and their eyes got really big when you said their names. So that's why I'm doing it again, just to pile on to the embarrassment piece. I also want to come back, though, to the panels. And we started off this RBC Future of Innovation Disrupted with a panel about women in innovation, and we were fortunate, again, similar to what you were talking about with Joe. We also had Estelle, who was facilitating that group, and she not only an entrepreneur in residence within the program and has acted in that role, but she walks the walk. She is an entrepreneur. She came into the program with Coffee Beauty, a body scrub made from coffee. It's the most amazing smelling thing on the planet. Sorry, I love coffee, so it's. But Estelle has developed this company into a national brand and a national product through hard work. And you know, she is one of the people that we refer to when we're talking about finding that network. And that was a theme that was in the discussion between Jesse and Amy and Olga, was, you know, develop those networks, have other people out there that you can look to who can help you. And Amy was talking about it a great deal, but, you know, at the beginning, she was a little bit more shy and a little bit more held back in doing that. But as she pushed herself, she said, finding other people that she could discuss this with, having a larger network of like-minded women who have gone down the same road. And it isn't just a network of entrepreneurs that are women, because unfortunately we showed that statistic when we introduced that. That's a small number. It has to be women from all walks of life that are going to be there to be able to assist and lift and help and rise up all of the women that are involved in the various programs. And we have to encourage that, and we have to push that, and we have to work together. We're fortunate that Jessie with CEO has is building that and is developing that, not just here, but around the world. And we were so fortunate to have her. And again, Olga, as a new faculty member here at the university, bringing those same sort of experience. And I couldn't help but notice the T-shirt that she had on. It said Queen on it. Perfect, right? I mean, be that pride, be that leader, be the strength, and help others who are coming there behind you. Challenge what people are saying to you. Push back when it's not fair, when it's not just, when it is full of misogyny and misrepresentation of true fact. Be who you can be and take somebody else along with you. That network piece, it great, powerful messages. And again, something that we're looking to try to develop through the anticipatory systems as we look to try to create further, deeper micro-entrepreneurship in rural communities and encouraging more women. And as you said, I mean, we take a look. Estelle was in the Summer Institute. Amy was in the Summer Institute. And we did have one of our Summer Institute cohorts, 100% women. and it was phenomenal. And you could start seeing that. And we want to encourage that and develop more and more women-led companies, more and more female entrepreneurs, innovators to be able to develop new products.
Dominic, something also I took away from there, and this is going to have profound impact on some of the stuff we do in our program, was that the entrepreneurs were saying, where are the role models when the media always talks about men CEOs? That hit home. And it hit home also because, you know, Estelle, and I've always been impressed with Estelle, was the top BMW salesperson, I think it was in Canada, while being in Fredericton. So as you seek to build the future, you kind of need to know what's in the art of the doable. And if we're not saying, hey, let me give you a couple of scenarios, some role models, then how do we lead the group? I'm going to leave it with when Riel Miller was doing a workshop in Africa on Build Your Future. And he had these young adults and he said, what I want you to build this future. He stopped them and said, you've built Wakanda. He said, don't let Hollywood tell you what your future is. What future do you want? And that panel that we just got, both on the women innovators, and on the rural urban, I think we're going to have to put a leg on our program where we come up with these role models and these stories and examples, and then say, now that you see what's going on, let's build the future.
Yeah, and that also segues greatly, and so we had the sort of speech in the middle by Jana Giles, and what a moving presentation that was. And I mean, you want to talk about a role model that we need to have there. Wow. I was saying to Rachel and Ashley while the last panel was going on, I was like, I really didn't want to get up and actually follow her. What an amazing speaker, but what the message was so deep. You know, listen, but listen to yourself as well. And don't just listen to those voices that are out there. You have to hear them, but you can block them out. And when they are the wrong voices that should be coming at you, develop and find the systems that work, that you can work within. And she talked about that when she was mentioning the work she was doing in Uganda. For those of you who missed Jana's talk, we're going to talk with her about potentially making this open to a much wider audience. It's a phenomenal 15 minutes, very, very poignant, and I think it's something that everybody needs to listen to, and we were so fortunate to have her here with us today. So that's sort of a wrap up of what we had here with the Future of Innovation Disrupted. We started out the day with our announcement of our co-chairs, as was mentioned, Jonathan here, my partner in crime. To that end, I truly want to thank Dr. Riel Miller, who's just sat here to my left right now, joining us from UNESCO in Paris to be here for this announcement. I have to say we are so excited and so honored here at the J. Herbert Smith Center. Riel is retiring from UNESCO shortly, and he'll be working with various institutions around the world in his retirement from UNESCO, in the next phase of his trajectory. And we are extremely fortunate that he has agreed to work with us as well in the J. Herbert Smith Center. And we are so honored that Riel is going to be doing that. And Narendra and I have already started meeting and discussing how we can move this forward and what projects we can work on. And we are so excited. And Jonathan, and we're just over the moon with this. And so thank you so much, Riel, for taking the time to join us and coming out of your way to join us here. And we look so forward to what we're going to be able to do together. I also have to thank our Dean of Engineering, Dr. Chris Diddick, for joining us this morning for the announcement. And finally, another aspect to my job, my other boss, Dr. Paul Mazerol, for joining us from Australia very late at night for an announcement. Very kind of him to do so, and for his encouragement for both Chris's and Paul's encouragement to move this forward. And the last 2 years, Jonathan, we started this journey just after COVID started. In March of 2020, we sat down and started putting pen to paper. And here we are, January 2022. Trials, tribulations, ups and downs, happiness and sadness, but we made it. So thank you very much. And to everybody online, I want to thank you very much. I'm now going to call back to the podium Dr. Dhirendra Shukla just to say a final farewell. Be well, my good friend Jonathan. All the best, and we will see you shortly.
We will be together, my friend. We will be together.
Take care.
Thank you, Dom. And again, thank you, Dr. Rael Miller. Huge to get to know you and spend more time with you and build out on the collaboration. And you traveling all this way means a lot to us, and want to congratulate Dominic and Jonathan again on the chair. And we're very, very excited at UNB about the partnership, about the collaboration, and what next. And obviously, like Dominic said, you being part of the center as a fellow is going to be very, very exciting for us. I want to take this opportunity to also thank UNB Wu Center staff, Sodexo, Media Services. And that being said, we wouldn't be here without the effort of Rachel Clark and Ashley Tanner. They are just simply amazing. They go above and beyond every time. We're very, very grateful for all their efforts and hard work, and thank you, thank you, thank you. At the same time, do not want to forget our main sponsor, RBC, who's been a main sponsor for many years. And we want to thank them for their commitment and dedication, for supporting our conference. And at the same time, we look forward to joining all of you, hopefully next year, fingers crossed, in person. That's a wrap. Thank you.
It's not actually a wrap because there was one person that we didn't thank and we need to. And finally, it's Dr. Dhirendra Shukla. And he's now running away. And I had to do that now because he probably wouldn't have come up to the podium had I done it beforehand. Dhirendra is the visionary for what we do here at the J. Herbert Smith Center. This is his conference. This is his vision. He developed this in a conversation that he actually had with Steve Blank. I remember we were down in California and he had that discussion on where we were going to do it. And Steve Blank said, just tell everybody it was the 30th and ask them where they've been for the last 29 years. You know, we just get on with it. And Dhirendra is the one who guides us and leads us. And we can't do this without him. So thanks so much, Dhirendra. And that is now officially a wrap. Hopefully next year, it'll be the future of innovation, not disrupted without COVID, and hopefully in person. We are truly looking forward to that. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.